Right. Go ahead and turn this off. Bro. Yeah, it just gave us this little message up here. Fuck. Yeah. I swear if we have to that, I'm gonna lose my shit. Probably wouldn't be the worst thing in the world. All right, I'm gonna get it off. Wi-Fi. Yeah, I think I already turned off my Wi-Fi. Yeah, what's going on? Okay, we're going to start bringing up guests just as a forefront. Obviously, not financial advice on any of this. We are just going to be talking NFT markets, specifically Solana NFT markets. Right next to me is Juice Man. Juice Man is with the Remnants. We have a whole panel of guests that are going to be coming and going. We'll be adding them as they join. Let's go ahead and start bringing them up. First off, we have Ryan from Shin Sengoku. What is up, Ryan? How are you, my friend?
Muted. Good morning, everybody. I guess it's morning for me, but good afternoon, everybody, I guess. I got my boomer hat on, my dad hat on, because every time I hang out with the kids that are 20 years younger than me, I got to put on the hello, fellow kids hat.
All right. Next up, we got Alexander42. What is up, Chillin' Dylan?
Yo, thanks for having me. I'm excited for today.
I am as well. Next up, we got Dorian. Dorian is a community mod over at Cyber Samurai and just fellow big brain. Definitely look forward to having him on here as well. Good morning, Dorian.
Hey, good morning, man. Thanks for having me on. How you guys doing?
I'm doing great because the next guest we have on is Shake, who bought Sol at $30. Congratulations, Shake. I did as well. I'm so proud.
Respect the pump.
Oh, man.
the voice changes on. Do you have your voice changer on?
Is the voice is changing?
Oh,
Shake's trying to stay anonymous.
Okay, so
staying anonymous?
Yeah, he's doing a
Who are
horrible
you showing
job.
your voice
really?
for? What were you doing before this?
Oh, now you sound good.
Oh, it's because I was trying to use the Snapchat camera filters, but it didn't work.
Oh, you
yeah,
had
bro,
like
your
the
voice is rocking.
yeah, it was like a voice changer thing.
Is it better now?
Yeah, you should be good. I think we're fine. Okay, well that's what we got right now. I know Easy said he might be stopping by. Obviously, the man's busy. Triple M rugged on us, used us for clout. Hate it here. Who else? Smoothie should be here at some point, and KTC is nowhere to be found. I haven't heard from him yet. So, in the meantime, boys, how we doing? Soul's pumping.
Good, man. I'm glad to see a little pump after being down for so long.
Right.
I just hope my NFT bags do the same.
Yeah, it's a really good point because when we see any sort of volatility in Sol, I feel like that's where NFTs, like if Sol goes up or down pretty drastically, we usually see NFT prices go down. It's usually in that chop range that we see a lot of profits when it comes to NFTs. So hopefully we find a.
I think their Mexico Wi-Fi is rugging them right now.
Yeah.
I was like, man.
Yeah.
I guess this is going to go from Bison stream to Shake stream.
Shake's gonna have to host pretty soon. I just checked the price of Sol. I didn't realize it was that high. I've been so heads down. I haven't even realized that it went up to $46.
Right. Alexander,
It's kind of sad that I'm happy.
No, I haven't been doing much, man. I've been like just networking in the background. Do you have like I don't know what you had like for talking points. Like I could bring up my own, but I'd like to hear what everyone else has to say before I like try to steal the stage.
Right. Yeah. We may have to like pass off hosting duties or something. Dude, we are in Mexico. Just so everybody knows, like our connection is. I don't know why we're right next to a router. We got 250 megs here, but it's just the lag on it. So if it rugs, we might have to switch hosts here, and Shake might have to just take all the hype and glory from this. But until then, I think the first talking point is gambling meta is back. It's very interesting because it seems like gambling meta is kind of what kicked off the last bull run last time.
Yep.
Right. So that was it's very interesting to see out of nowhere. Poker Faces goes from 12 Sol to 190 P. That's one last time I checked. Anybody game based right now?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, gambling in it, there's not much to be generated.
Yeah, the Wi-Fi's pretty rough.
I don't know what you guys are
I can. Yeah, I can't. It's hard to hear
Something
you guys,
about
Bison
gambling.
and Juice. Something about gambling, but I think the gambling thing just kind of goes back to like the macroeconomic trends, right? Like we're heading into like probably like I'm 40, so I lived through like the .com crash. I lived through the 9/11, the Great Recession as an adult basically. And what I'm seeing right now in the macroeconomics is like it's heading into like something that's going to be worse than 2008. Like the war in Ukraine causing food shortages because of the price of grain and stuff that's coming out of Ukraine. And so like everybody's going to feel poor, and it kind of makes sense that people are going into gambling. I think it's just like a natural thing, right? And it's just kind of nuts, like the timing of everything. It's like a huge kind of like almost like an everything crash coming up. So gambling meta makes sense in that sense, right? Like if everybody's starting to feel poor, they start to get a little bit more risky with their assets, and it's going to be an interesting couple years, I think.
I think a lot. Go ahead, Shake.
Well, I was going to say anecdotally, like I heard Easy talking about this, but it seems like when times are like the shittiest is when the gambling ones do the best, you know, because it's like kind of it's an escape, and it's just like pure degenerate gambling. Like flipping JPEGs is already like you know, kind of like gambling and pretty degenerate in itself, but then like those are just like, you know, cut away the fluff and you're literally just heads or tails. But there's obviously a huge appeal to it. I'm personally not really a fan of it. Like I think if most people like realized, like if they learned about expected value, they wouldn't do it. But then again, you could say that about casinos, and like casinos are a multi-billion-dollar industry. So I don't know. I just think it's kind of like I don't like promoting it, and I see a lot of people doing that because they have some coin flip that pays them dividends based on it, and it just seems like this big fucking Ponzi.
I just think that people want something to make money, and right now gambling's the easiest way to do that. Back in mint season, it's like a lot of these gambling projects don't pump because people have something else to distract themselves with. So when there's literally nothing else going on in the market, it's like, well, what's the easiest thing to do? Flip a coin heads or tails to make 2 or 3 soul, and then just continue to do that, or find like, I don't know, press a button before the timer runs out, and then you make more soul doing that. So these things are very simple, but yet seemingly rewarding, because it's like the house always wins, but it just gives something people to do until the next thing comes along.
Yeah, I'm kind of wondering how long the next thing's going to take to come along. Like we look at the volume in Magic Eden or all the NFT marketplaces, OpenSea, and it just kind of aligns with basically the whole macro economy, global macro economy, where it's just like everything is pretty bad right now, and it's if inflation keeps going the way it's going. Sorry to turn this into a boomer talk, but it's just like the things that I think about all the time. Like inflation is crazy right now, and it's gonna get worse if everything gets more expensive. Then I'm not sure how the NFT market kind of recovers in that sense. But I think there's opportunities. Like I think, you know, Juice and the Remnants team can probably attest to this. There's opportunities that come out of this, right? Like the strategies have to shift for development teams and project teams, and what everybody's providing for their holders in terms of like, you know, if worst case scenario, you assume floor prices will always stay like this, like if it'll be like a bonus, like if it goes up again, like all projects start to pump again. But if projects start to assume that floor prices are like this for the extended long term, then how does that change the way the projects think about what they do with their funds and how they operate? And I don't know, like I'm seeing like probably like a lot of more projects just like soft rugging in the future, but there's going to be like the gems that kind of keep building through it, and it's going to be interesting.
I'm still personally a firm believer that we'll see a reemergence of the play to earn meta, or probably what might shift to a play and earn meta, because a lot of these play to earn games were not sustainable, and I think that was that's been one of the biggest issues. But we saw how Axie Infinity shift their narrative from play to earn to play and earn, just so people can continue playing. And I know you're doing that a lot with Shinsen Goku, Ryan, to make sure the ecosystem is sustainable. Honeyland is coming out with their own coin to have like promote developers to build in their ecosystem and to utilize their coin so they can have a sustainable ecosystem. Same thing with Degen Trash Pandas with Rain. So I think once these games start launching and people are like, oh, I can earn money in a sustainable way, we'll see a lot of more of the market switch over to gaming again.
Yeah, gaming has some maturation to do for sure, just like maturing through this cycle. So like you just mentioned, play to earn, people are now rephrasing as play and earn. I don't really think it matters what we call it. You know, people are now saying it's play to own and you just own your assets, and that's the upside. And I think play to earn catches a bad rap right now because it was so highly, there were such high expectations, and so far everything from Axie to Step In to even like we're going through, you know, our challenges now at Remnants, anything that has a publicly traded, you know, coin, whether it be an LP or something like we have on Famous FoxFed, risky asset. People are just dumping it. We're getting rugged. Yeah. All right. You guys still hear us? All right. So I think play to earn gets a bad rap. You could even look at DODs. Like Dust is down fucking 90% from its all-time highs. And I think we could sit here and argue and probably say like, yeah, they probably have the best sinks for a token in the entire ecosystem. So I think game will come around. I think it's going to blend in with more of this metaverse. But I think this is a perfect transition to start talking about, like Ryan was saying, like Honeyland, like how our team's going to start diversifying away from royalties as a single revenue source. And I know our guy Alexander has been tweeting it about 600 to 700 times a day, pumping that engagement, baby, because everyone wants to talk about it. But, you know, I think it's a good time to talk about it. I know Shake has been building new revenue streams as well. Merch looks sick, by the way, buddy. Really well done on that. But yeah, you guys want to talk about that? Whoever wants to start, let's talk about just like 0% royalties going potentially towards that world and how teams can play defense against that.
Well, I don't think that we'll reach a world where NFTs don't receive any royalties. I think Magic Eden, at least with Magic, in my opinion, that they'll do something to like incentivize people to utilize their marketplace more, whether they have to take a small, like a temporary loss over time if they're going to be like, hey, you can trade on Magic Eden for 0 market fees and 0% royalties, just so to have more people use that instead of y'all. But in the long run, it's like, if you would get rid of royalties for the project, I don't see why project founders would continue to provide value to the community. At that point, they might as well just raise funds to go on about their business, and you're just essentially buying a JPEG at that point. I think one of the allures of NFTs is having some type of ownership in whatever this team is building.
Yeah, I kind of agree with that. Like I kind of tweeted about it a little bit. I'm not really a big Twitter guy, but the whole incentive of building in Web3 is the fact that you can get like these, for just in terms of like why a big corporation or business might take a swing at NFTs or this kind of Web3 movement. It's the royalties, because why would they invest into developing a whole new tech stack? You know, all this, basically this going off from like Web2, which is like something that's so easy to do. You know, all the tech is solidified, the stacks are solidified to go into Web3, and like the royalties are like the biggest part of that. But that being said, like as project founders, it is what it is. Like you just have to adapt and find addition. Like the goal for Shin was always to like have additional revenue streams outside of royalties. But I always viewed royalties as like a nice like buffer to your runway, right? Like you mint a project and that gives you your runway, whatever months of that, or a year maybe. And then the royalties kind of add a buffer to that runway, so you can kind of extend it out a little bit. If that goes away, project teams just have to rely on their mint for their runway. And in order for them to, so that kind of brings it into like, you're now changing mint into like a seed fund, a seed raise. And then you have to basically like take off into profitability before your runway runs out, or you're just dead. Like all startups, this is like a traditional startup, like with the no royalties. That's basically what a traditional startup is, right? At that point, like you raise money and then you have to either try to find a different round of funding, either through a secondary mint or VC capital, or you just die. And that's with NFTs without royalties are essentially that.
Yeah, for sure. No, you know, one opinion I saw from Alex, and we kind of saw details from Frank, is once you reach a high enough floor price, you're almost not incentivized enough to keep going and keep pushing for your holders. Not that Frank doesn't do that, but it's like once you get to a point, OTC trading becomes a lot more prominent, and you're losing more royalties than you're actually gaining. And so Frank has talked about it pretty publicly that he's actually going to try lowering down the royalties, and maybe that finds something. Alex, do you see any other projects that are incurring the same problem? And we see this over in Ethereum, because I don't know, I'm not very well versed in that sense.
Yeah, they have like a marketplace, but they don't have like an artist world. They have XY. I think I forget what the marketplace is, but it's almost doing like if you go look at like the volume, it's almost doing as much volume as Magic is. So people are saying like that marketplace isn't doing, but you can like go check. I think it's called Dapper. You can check the volume. It's like right on par with like what Magic Eden USDC value is. Like if you check it today, it's like they're both at like I don't know. I don't have the numbers on top of my, but it's similar to like OpenSea does like 8 times the volume in USDC versus Magic Eden. So that's like where we're at right now. But yeah, so like the problem with royalties and like them lowering, it's like a convenience thing. When the floors get very high, it's like you want to save that money. But if it's very low, it's just like very convenient to not go find that seller. So that's like the only reason why people are avoiding OTC, because how inconvenient it is to go into like a Discord and search for a buyer for your item versus like just listing it and then letting Magic Eden find your buyer. So it's literally just a thing of convenience. So if it's like, if I'm going to save $5, I'm just like, no, dude, just take it. Like, I just, but if I'm going to save $5,000, then I'm going to like go out there and look for people. So it's just literally a thing of convenience at the moment. But if once it gets streamlined, it's just going to be so hard to beat that. Like if I can save $5, it's like almost the same as Magic Eden, but it's not streamlined enough at all. It's very cumbersome. And it just takes a lot of time. So that's like, it's just literally comes down of a thing of convenience to me.
So I would agree. I guess I'd throw it back to the group and say, like, so I was playing around on Yaw, and what's interesting to me is you'd think this would affect a community like DGods. Like, there's not really that many DGods listed on Yaw. We're in the perfect environment for there to be a platform like Yaw that works. I guess it's still too soon to call it, but if not now, like, what needs to be done in order for something like this to succeed? Because it doesn't seem from the numbers to be getting a ton of traction.
Was that a question for me?
Not everybody.
Okay, it was kind of like breaking. It sounds like like what do we do for Yaw? I don't know.
Yeah.
It's like I feel like we're very critical on them. I mean, they traded like 1/70th of the volume of Matt on day one. I think that's kind of like where they've been, is like almost like pushing towards 2%. Like it's just going to slowly happen. The capitulation will happen. I just don't think it's going to happen overnight like we expect. But like once people become adapted, and like once you see like I'm like selling my NFT for $1,000 and you're selling it for $1,000 as well, but you're only getting 900 back, it's going to it'd piss me off. I'm like, dude, this guy's getting 1,000 every time, and we're like literally the same traders. Like it's going to be an unfair trader advantage, and you'll want to take advantage of it as well eventually.
Yeah,
I think that's a great point, Alex. And I want to continue on with what you were saying regarding like bigger projects will probably use Yaw because that's a higher percentage of royalties that's going back to the trader. By royalties, I mean there's no royalties to the project, but higher amount of money going back to the trader. So it's like I would be more inclined to list my DGods or anything 50 sold plus on Yaw Vice going to Magic Eden, where I'm going to lose a large chunk of that in royalties. So we might see like newly minted projects or projects up to a certain floor price mint on Magic Eden or utilize Magic Eden, while like higher, more illiquid assets like Tayo would list probably on Yaw.
Yeah, I think I just want to tie back to just like, the whole idea of like 0% royalties assumes that we're at peak maturation of the NFT market, and we're really not. We're just at the beginning. And so I don't know, like it's an interesting thing. Like I could see things going both ways, right? And a lot of the things in Web 2 that I didn't like, royalties kind of solved for in a way as a founder, right? Like the way that you make money in Web 2 is you harvest data and you sell it to advertisers. And like royalties provided a viable alternative to doing that to your users. But if 0% royalties becomes the norm, then I can see data harvesting and selling that to advertisers becoming a lot more practical for project founders if they want to continue to distribute digital assets if there's no royalties involved. And so like I could see like NFT prices going to zero. Like nobody values the NFT anymore because it's not, the projects will just pump out NFTs because there's no upside for them to sell NFTs, and they would just make their money on the data harvesting, targeting, advertising kind of things, right? So it's like in the short term it might be good for traders, like you can get a 0% royalty, but then in the long term, what are NFTs gonna look like in the long term? Is it going to just be like a project will come out and say like, we're minting 100,000 NFTs at $5 each, right? And so that's their mint or whatever. And then they know that they're not going to get any royalties in the future. So then their profit, their revenue model is, I'm going to harvest data from these users. I'm going to collect data and sell that to advertisers, or I'm going to sell things to them constantly as like, whatever the revenue stream. There's like all these existing Web2 revenue models that exist now. And I could see like, if that's the case, if, one of the potential futures could be that, right? Like NFTs are worth nothing because founders realize that they're not going to get any upside on the royalties. And so they just make money in alternative means.
Is my voice still messed up?
It sounds better now, Shay.
Perfect.
No, you're good.
Sounds good. Yeah, I think I like what Ryan brought up about like kind of Web 2 examples, because one of the most compelling arguments that I've heard against zero royalties is it actually is before that this all happened on Solana, but like Kevin Rose, when he launched Moonbirds, right? Like if you guys don't know, he had I can't even remember what his company's called, Dig, his old company, his Web 2 thing.
Yeah,
whatever. Kevin
Dig.
Yeah.
Dig.
So he had that. I think he invested and like was partnered on a couple other like Web 2 companies that were really successful. Guy made a bunch of money. So he talked about with Moonbirds, he thought like he thinks NFTs are interesting because you can create like media and brand based businesses without ad revenue. And the reason you can do that is because of the royalty revenue. And so like that's kind of in general the take that I have. Like if NFTs don't have royalties, I just think that it's like, I think the ability to write royalties into the smart contract is part of what makes it an NFT. And otherwise we might as well be like selling JPEGs that are like hosted on Amazon Web Services. But I also think that like it's a nuanced topic. I don't think that projects shouldn't be trying to make their own revenue. I think that like most of these projects, right? Like we at Mint raised like over $2 million. We don't even actually have investors. Like we have people who bought our NFTs, but there's no legal obligation to them. It was very easy for us to raise 2 million. Like I'm just going to be transparent. Like if we went to VCs trying to raise 2 million for a comic book, like they would have said, fuck off. Right. So it was really easy for us. We raised 2 million. I feel like I'm doing a disservice to like the people that trusted us if I don't think of ways to create sustainable like revenue that's not so correlated to the market conditions. Like that's just my opinion. Like if you aren't thinking about that in some way, then like you're like most likely lazy, right? Or you're a top project like Moonbirds and you don't have to think about it. But very few people are in that boat. So
Moonbirds also raised like 40 million in venture capital as well. So they're
and they raised about and what they meant for 2.5 ETH or something. Yeah. So like I wish all of us were in that scenario, but obviously we're not. And so I think if you're not, like you're doing a disservice to your project if you're not thinking of other ways to make money. And some people like have jobs and then run an NFT on the side. Like I know Cadence, I just talked to recently, like he has his Pengu Love thing. Like he literally doesn't even take a salary from it. And he runs his own successful company, like in real life. And so I think that's a similar thing. It's like, it allows him to continue working on it and putting money into it, regardless of the royalty they're making. But I do think that like I'm super pro royalty from both the trader and founder perspective, because as a trader, like a lot of the manic speculation that we see, which is how we make money on the volatility of like the actual asset price action, a lot of that is because founders are driven to like create the volume because we make royalties. And so you take royalties away and it's like, I'm just going to be like, hey, like here's this new NFT that you have to mint instead of buying the one I already made, because I'm not making shit on that. So I'm just going to make a new one and come up with some reason that you need to buy that new one, instead of trying to like drive value and like utility and excitement to the original one. So I've talked about this with Alex, like, because Alex is like, oh, you guys are founders. I'm from the trader perspective, bro. I've made way more money trading JPEGs than I ever did on my own project. And I'm telling you, like, as a trader, I want royalties because I know that without it, the speculation will die down. I'm not saying it'll be zero, but like, I think there'll be a lot less overall NFT volume if you don't have like people like me, Ryan, Juice, like thinking every day of like, how are we going to like drive volume to this? Like, instead, we're just going to be like, all right, well, fuck it, you know? And so I think that traders and founders, like, we should kind of come on the same page with this, and because royalties are a good thing. And
yeah, it's aligned incentives, right? Like I think Shaky talked about this too. I'm a big believer in that aligned incentives, and royalties are part of that. And it really does. Like I think you're right. Like if there's no incentive for a project founder to I mean, it's different, right? Like for me, I'm always like, yeah, like I gotta return value to holders in some way possible because we already minted and stuff. But in new projects in the future, if it's like if there's no upside to constantly, well, there's various types of people that will launch NFT projects, right? Some people just want to make quick money. Some people actually want to build a business. But regardless of whatever type in the future, if zero royalties becomes a standard, then it really is the strategy to become like mint as many NFTs as possible at mint, or mint and then continue to mint new projects because royalties don't mean anything anymore. So yeah, it's going to be interesting. It is what it is though. Like if that's what's going to be popular, then everybody just has to adjust.
So like if you guys like, let's say like 0% royalties does become the norm, like don't you think founders will innovate ways to get around that? I've been seeing things such as like new dexes being created for SPL tokens, so founders get a portion of each trade that happens with Sol and or USDC in their ecosystem token. Do you guys know of any other creative ways that founders might implement to try to circumvent that?
I mean, just setting up like a real business, right? Like a real business has customers, and you need to create like a product that can have customers. And I think that's the way that I think a lot of existing projects probably will be taking in the near future. If you already have a project out there, then it'll be like, yeah, I have funds to build something now that I can acquire customers with, and I think that makes sense to me. Just but in terms of like more creative ways to do it, I'm sure there's more creative ways to do that as well.
Yeah, for sure. So I think when it comes to royalties, I think there is a balance. I think we'll end up finding it in this market. I am, like bullish on giving consumers choices, but I'm also, there's nothing else that I see that aligns a project and end users more so than royalties, right? Like there's clear synergies there. And I'm just trying to think of like what other options do we have that does such a good alignment as royalties does. I do think you should always find new business or new, that shouldn't even be a question, but royalties are like the lifeblood of synergies when it comes to the end user and the project, and it's what keeps driving it forward. But I do see that there are maturation points when it comes to like once you get to a certain level of royalty or certain floor price, that you do start seeing royalties wane because you start seeing over-the-counter trading. So it's like, how do we realign those incentives? We haven't hit those peak up points yet here with any of the projects here. I am bullish on all of this, but I think we'll all come to that spot once we cross that path. And I'm very curious to see what we all implement, whether it is just simply lowering royalties to be more in line with the audience, or if it's coming up with some sort of like, hey, we'll implement this feature in return for, an additional 1% on royalties or something like that. Maybe there's some sort of dynamic we can find there. Maybe it is something, hey, if you've only held this JPEG for a day, it's like 15% royalties. If you held it for a week, maybe it's 10% there. Maybe a month you go down to 7.5, and 3 months 5, and 6 months 2%. Who knows what it looks like, right? But I think there is, at the end of the day, you do want your holders to hold because they believe in the project, and you do want the people that are just value leeches to get out, and eventually you find those holders that do believe in the project. So it is very curious to see. Y'all price is down massively. Quantum Traders is what? What's the last time we checked?
7-ish.
7. Yeah. I mean, it went down from 14 to 7. So we do kind of see like the immediate market reaction there. The y'all token price has gone down. They haven't really done that much volume on their marketplace. In fact, the most listed NFT there is the Quantum Trader itself. So, I think
Did you
it
see
is
the Magic Eden CEO, what he posted?
No,
Back
what do you
Here,
post?
I'll put it in chat if you want to pull it up. He just shit on Yob because he just said that they're dead on arrival.
Let's see. I'm gonna go green. Breakdown. We're gonna do Twitter. All right. Let's go ahead.
Cool. And if you more complete God.
Dead on arrival. That's hilarious, dude. What?
Crazy, bro.
So let's.
CEO of this $1 billion unicorn company.
Oh man.
I call that free engagement. I mean, you got Magic Eden tweeting about their competitor. Like, You can
Yeah, very
dunk
true.
on people, but it's literally just free engagement, in my opinion. I think this is happening. I don't think there's anything you can stop it. I think it's a good thing for the ecosystem. I think it'll force actually innovation. And like, yeah, it sucks for like the grandfathered projects that relied on this revenue stream as a business model going into it. But like going forward, you're only going to have projects that are able to generate new revenue streams, in my opinion. And like the royalty revenue stream is something that just dries up over time, and it's not like a sustainable revenue stream. So I don't understand it.
Wait, so you
Yeah,
think,
so
you
Dorian,
think that,
Be-
to,
be-
to be
be-
clear, you think that it's going to
because-
move in the direction of everything zero royalties, and you think that's good?
Yeah, that's a great thing. Personally, I think it'll clear
And
out
you're
the
not
trash
engaged
from
with
the
farming right
cash.
now.
Hang on, no. Like this is, well, I obviously can change my opinion, right? Like I can change my opinion if you give me like a valid argument. This is why I can't change my opinion, Shake. You can't give me an argument where you say we can stop this 0%. There's no way you can stop it outside of like making it illegal. They shut down an Napster because the people were stealing art or music, because it was considered to be illegal. Unless you like illegalize OTC trading, there's no way of stopping it. And like you can say other things, but dude, there's other ways to get around it. Like you can start selling private keys to wallets, like moving your NFT to a new wallet, just sell the price. Like how are you going to stop that, Shake? It's impossible to stop. So it's better to like prepare for like, I think, an unstoppable thing that's going to happen over time.
I actually agree with that. Like I agree, like if it becomes the popular thing, then a lot of like the traders like it, then it's gonna become the thing. It's just my thinking is just like, okay, if that becomes the thing, then what do NFTs look like in the future? And a lot of traders that trade NFTs, they're banking on floor prices rising and things. And what if I'm just thinking like in the future, if there's no incentive of any kind of royalty revenue for a project, then it really is the types of projects that are going to come out are either going to be like the good ones are going to be like, let's mint 1 million NFTs at whatever, $2 each. And I have no desire to, the floor price is irrelevant to me at that point, right? Because I made a $2 million raise and I'm going to treat this as a seed round, and I'm going to try to build product market fit, profitability before that runway runs out, or get venture capital. And so that basically kills like the whole trading of NFTs, right? If that becomes like the good projects are that, and then what's left, like the ones that are going to be pumping in up and down are like the shitty ones, basically, that people are going to try to manipulate floor prices and things. And so I guess it is what it is. Like that's why I say like if it happens, it happens. But I think it could change the way that people view NFTs and businesses operate in NFTs and try to design product around them.
Oh, Alex, what I'm hearing from you is partly like the economic actors thing that you learn in college, where it's like, oh, like everybody's like rational minded and like they're going to go where the lowest fees are because they care about their profit margins. And I think that's a good point. Like that, I see the validity in that, but like I also know that I don't know if any of you guys probably know about this, but this protocol called Grape Protocol, they launched this like NFT DEX with like super low fees. So I'm comparing this to Magic Eden, right? Magic Eden 2%. I'm pretty sure these guys had like near 0% trade marketplace fees, non-custodial listing. Like in a lot of ways it was better, right? It never caught on. So like if that was true, why would people put up with Magic Eden's fees and not go to like Grape or do, why would they do that if they cared so much about their profit margins?
Are you saying, so you got to ask yourself this, Shake, like why do you trade on Solana versus ETH?
You're not answering my question.
No, I'm about to. Like, it's going to give me the answer. Like, you're going to say because of ETH gas, and like, what's ETH gas? It cuts into your profit margin, and so like, you can.
But I'm saying it's not that simple though. Like, that there's ease of use. So the liquidity is on Magic Eden. The volume's on Magic Eden. Traders care about fees. They also care about liquidity. Like, if I'm getting 5% less fee by trading, or 7% less fee by trading my Cyber Samurai on Yaw, but then there's no fucking buyers, it's pointless. That's my point, is like, it's not one thing. It's not only the percentage fee, it's the liquidity and the volume. And that also is my argument about why royalties are like, I think they're going to stay, because if there's no royalty, then like the founders aren't driven to drive volume. So like, there's less fees for traders, but there's less volume. Like, I'd rather have high volume 10% fees. Like OK Bears was one of the best NFT trades I made this whole year. High ass royalties, right? But super high volume. Like, I would argue that the volume is more important. And so if y'all can't get volume, because we saw Grape try it, they couldn't get volume, and they're like a Solana OG. They've been around a while. They had a big community. They couldn't catch on. Like, I'm just arguing that like Magic Eden is, unless Magic Eden switches their tune and they do 0% royalties. But so far, it doesn't seem like that. I think, and you could speculate on like if they're going to do that or why they're not doing that. But like so far, they've said their stance is like we support creators, and I think it's because they understand like that's part of the whole NFT thing. That's part of the craze, the mania. Like I'm not going to enjoy trading NFTs like if I don't think the price could do 100x. The reason I think that fucking like I was talking about this with Dorian, dude, the Cat's milk bottle, the fucking Peblo, they've made like over $350,000-$400,000 on royalties for the fucking milk. And like, why do they do that? Because he can drive anticipation and speculation and hype this shit up. And he wants to do that because he's making fucking $500,000 from it. And everybody gets dropped free money. So it's kind of like in symbiosis in a lot of ways. Now, at the same time, I'm saying all that, I do think this is kind of a response that we're seeing from traders is like royalties in general are too high. You have fucking shitcoin projects like, I don't like to talk shit about specific projects necessarily, but like you have shit projects that have never proven anything and they're charging 10% royalties for no apparent reason. They just raised millions. So I think that is going to change, but I don't think like royalties are going to zero.
Are you done? You're putting me to sleep. Like Shake, you're putting me to sleep with your counter argument. I want either Uurayan or Dorian or Bison come up with like a better.
Bro, you have no argument. I just shit all over your argument.
No, your argument is that
0% fees and traders don't use it, and you have no response to that.
Can I get the mute button? Is there a mute button? Is there a mute button here?
You're stuck, dude. You have no response. Tell me why Grapes Marketplace has no NFT.
How can I mute Bison?
Tell me that. Tell me that, bro. Yeah, fucking.
We're getting timeout. Okay, we're gonna time out those two real quick. Sorry, it was a little bit laggy on timing them out. We'll bring them back in a second. Yes, yeah. We'll bring them back in 2 seconds, but I just wanted to we're gonna give them a little timeout. No, I understand where both you guys are coming from.
I didn't get to make my point. What? I got interrupted the entire time.
Right. I can't. Alex, go ahead. I'll let you go.
Okay. So let's think about like the upcoming of Magic Eden. It didn't happen literally over. It took like a long ass time, and like when it was happening, I could see like Solana Art was like they were trending down. And I could just see like it was going to happen. Like, but I was making like the same accusations I'm making right now. Like you can go back and like look in the. I was like Magic Eden is going to be like the open sea of Solana, and that's what they did. And I was calling that, and when it wasn't a thing, like no one was like, dude, what are you talking about? Kind of like what I'm doing right now. Like what's going to happen? You guys are like, well, there's no volume. Well, it's day 3. They can build the volume. Like that's something they can build. You know what Magic Eden can't build? To a 0%. So y'all can do something that Magic Eden can't. And like to get business, you either have to be the cheapest on the market or you have to be the best on the market. But because there's such a deviation right now between Magic Eden and y'all, because how much more convenient it is, because like for instance, like you buy 100 NFTs. You know how annoying it is, how many clicks you have to go through to get through y'all, but they can build to get to that Magic Eden level is what I'm saying. And Magic Eden can't go the other way around. They can't get to that 0%. So all they didn't do is like a little bit of marketing. And then like, I mean, they could just, dude, it's so easy for them to win versus Magic Eden. It's very hard to win.
Alex, I disagree with you on those points. First, like with Solana Art was a very crappy platform, and everybody was looking for another marketplace to utilize at the time. So I disagree with you on that. However, with y'all, I think Magic Eden has enough liquidity to, like I said earlier, to even take a loss for a period of time to incentivize people to stay on their platform. I mean, worst comes to worst, they probably raise more money and buy out y'all. But in my opinion, it'll be very difficult for people in like the market to be like, we're using this marketplace for 0% royalties and we're no longer using Magic Eden. But I do see that, like I said earlier, high level or high floor price NFTs will take place on Yacht.
I'm gonna let Alex respond to that, and then we can go to Shake. But yeah, go ahead, Alex.
No, I don't know. I feel like everyone's being super critical of them, but like everyone's talking about them. You even have the Magic Eden, like they see it coming. Like there's nothing they can do. Like this is a big problem. The only like thing they have like a benefit is, like I said, it's just so cumbersome, and I guarantee they're not scaled out enough to handle like the large volume all at once. Like they're such a they're in their infancy infancy phase. And like in a month from now, we'll be having a totally different conversation, in my opinion. And then we can like really put the nail in the coffin. But like right now, to say like they're ruled out because they don't have like 70,000 volume day one, they didn't flip Magic Eden day two, like dude, out of pocket.
No, I agree with that. Like, I agree. Actually, I actually don't disagree with Alexander here. Like, I think it is a possibility that becomes the reality. Like the 0% fees. It just whatever the market wants, right? But my thinking is just like, how does that affect creators, founders? Like, what types of people want to become NFT founders, and what do they use NFTs for in the future? So, I mean, like if the market decides that that's what everybody in the market wants, then that it makes sense for the market, then that's what it's going to be. It just might hamstring the NFT space in general.
And like, this isn't
All
a
right,
show
Alex,
for
let
y'all
me make
either.
my point real quick, Alex. Let me make
This
my
isn't
point
a
real
show
quick.
for y'all.
I
real
won't
quick.
put you to sleep, bro.
No,
You're saying all they have to do is this is your words.
I have been on
Let me say it.
camera. I've been on Twitter. I've been on Spaces.
You said your point.
I said they do not benefit the holders at all. Like I told y'all, I'm like, you guys have got to. You're taking like huge cuts out of your loans. Why can't you give it back to the holders? And they're like paying it back. They're not paying them back enough, is what I'm saying. And I'm not like a fan of their. I'm a fan of just paying 0% and like getting a trader's advantage.
All right, so Alex, this is what you just said. All they have to do is a little bit of marketing, right? I would argue what they just did is the biggest fucking. They just blew their load marketing. That is the most anyone is ever going to talk about Yacht was just this past week. And what happened? Their volume chart is going down. Like that's why I'm calling you. Like you're supposed to sell the news, right? That was the Pico top of Yacht coin, of Yacht NFT and everything. I don't think that they have the fucking nuts to like take it and steal Magic Eden's market share. The Magic Eden team, like you can say what you want about them, but they're really experienced. They had like a guy from Uber to scale the tech and everything. They now also have hundreds of millions in funding. It's going to be really hard to compete with Magic Eden when you're Yacht and you just did your biggest marketing event and the volume didn't budge barely. So I think that like you're speculating like, oh, all they have to do is marketing. Like, bro, if they hired you, maybe I'd be bullish on their marketing. Their marketing is not very good. Like, why do we have reason to believe that their marketing is going to bring their volume? Like, that's all I'm asking.
Yeah, I'm going to jump in here real quick because I kind of like Alex's point because Yaw platform sucks. It does. And honestly, I think Alex, correct me if I'm wrong, but your opinion is like, you can't stop the ideal that we're going to 0% royalties, but it may not be with Yaw, right? Like the interface sucks and it may not be them if they can get the interface right. If they can get kind of the seamlessness that you get with Magic Eden and the interface, maybe the volume will come. Or maybe it's just a concept and somebody else runs with it. Is that what you're saying, Alex?
Yeah, there's no way of stopping this. So I think it's better to plan for the worst. And like everyone's just like avoiding it is what's kind of like what, like I'm not for it, right? I think it's like probably morally wrong, but monetarily right. Like it's the right thing to do if you're a smart trader, but like morally wrong if you like respect people and their creations. So that's like, it's like a tear on two different worlds. And that's why I think like they're so opinionated.
Yeah, that's a good point. I think that the point is becoming moot because like what Dorian was saying before, like projects, regardless of whether this happens in the short term or not, projects are going to need to form new revenue streams because like how many projects in the Solana space right now could last 2 years based off royalties alone? Or like bring it back to the real world. How many companies in the S&P 500 are built off brand or community? The answer is 0. So in order for projects to last long term, they're going to have to find new revenue streams. Fuck it, if royalties go to 0, like the good projects will plan for that. And if it does a new stream, but you're going to have to pivot and create these new streams where it happens not. So I know like Uurayan and our project Remnants are pretty well positioned in gaming. There's so much you can do. But, you know, there's still, everyone talks about, getting Web 2 users into, Web 3. Well, why aren't we building the tools? Why isn't anyone really putting emphasis on that and bridging, like, I hate the phrase, but bridging the gap? Like, there's still so much to be done and so much opportunities. People just need to dig in and put the royalties aside and just say, all right, we need to act as if royalties are going to go away and projects will thrive and innovate from there.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Can I ask something just that's interesting? Because like, so do you look at NFT projects as the same as like somebody raising private equity? Like, do you think it's like, like, why are we even doing NFTs? Like, why don't you just start a company, raise equity, and just become a like normal ass company?
No, it's totally different. And that's the beauty. Go with $50 and get access to the D gods or the next, private investment, private equity returns that they couldn't get as an accredited investor. So I think that's the beauty of NFTs, but that doesn't change the fact that we'll need to, similar to a traditional business, create more revenue from different things than just royalties.
Yeah,
So
you think, like, how
it's a great
value accrue to the investor
ahead,
then if there's no royalties? Like, how, like, if it's like, okay, if the argument is like, we're basically buying unregistered securities, if there's no royalties, why would there be any value accrual to people buying the NFTs?
Yeah, I think about it from a gaming perspective. I mean, so we haven't even tapped into it yet, where we're just like gamified staking really at this point. But it's very basic, and I can't make the points for other, like, gambling or a analytics or tools based project. But for us, looking at something like, what the fuck's a good Web2, like a Fortnite, we still have so much to do where we can pass the value through gamification back to the end user. So like we can, it's a benefit on both sides. Let's say we bring in some like mint in game where there's 10 magic swords, and just because it has intrinsic value in the game, the end user who mints it has a benefit, and then our team gains that soul or the utility token as well. So we both benefit from that kind of revenue stream. Like, again, I don't know what else is out there, but that's something that we think about when we're seeing like what's the benefit to both the holder and the project at once.
Yeah, and Shake, I actually like that was a big thing that I was debating over when we were doing Shinsengoku's, like, because I had offers for venture capital. Like, I have friends like in Hawaii that are VCs that are familiar with my track record and the things that I've done. But I thought it would be like cooler to build with like a community, like you get everybody on there, and if we can execute well, then it's like then they see the upside in that. But I guess there's a difference between like being someone who's investing in NFTs and an investor. Like, everybody who's investing in NFTs are not investors, right? Like they're investing in the NFT idea, but they don't have any, like, as a founder, you technically don't have any onus to deliver to them, but you try to, like, as a founder. But it's a big thing, like like going back to what Alexander was saying, like if that's what the market wants, it's going to be like it's kind of like one of those things, right? Like, I'm sure Blockbuster Video didn't like the idea of Netflix streaming becoming the thing, and it became the thing because if a solution solves the problem of the consumer better, then consumers go to that usually. So, I mean, whatever it is, but it is an interesting thing, like the people like us, right, that already minted out a project and have operated with royalties and stuff, like designing a aligned incentives business model that benefits holders in some way is going to be the big challenge, I think, now for existing projects. I don't know if I got rugged now. Is everybody frozen?
No, you're good, man. I'm still here.
Okay. Okay. Yeah.
This is rough. Bro. Okay.
I don't know. We could probably move on to another topic, right? We've been talking about royalties for like 40 minutes now. So
Yeah, I like that. I think we all agreed that 0% is what's going to happen. So I agree.
We're all talking about royalties, but
Well,
no one's using y'all still. That's the truth.
Okay. Well,
And we're already getting
we'll
bored of it one weekend.
Yeah.
Shake, you don't want to put yourself into the camp where it's like NFTs are stupid. Like, there's a bunch of people right now that are like, NFTs are the dumbest thing ever. So you just give yourself that little opening, like, oh yeah, it might happen, right? Like, instead of it's never gonna happen. Yeah, it never be like it, because like right now, like I'm watching what people, like the normal people, say about NFTs, and it's like it's the exact same shit people said about the internet in the 90s. Like I've lived through that. Like I was on the internet as a really young kid, like in middle school, like doing all kind of building websites, or websites didn't exist really at that point. But once I got to high school, like building websites, trying to make money online, and everybody around me is like, oh, that's stupid. That's for nerds, right? And that's kind of like what people talk about NFTs like today. And so you don't want to put yourself into this thing like, oh, 0% royalties are never going to happen. It's just like, yeah, it might happen, but this is why I feel like it shouldn't happen, right?
Yeah, that's more my stance. I think Alex and I actually agree on most things. Like, I like what he said. Like, economically it makes sense, morally it doesn't make sense. I'm just yeah, I agree with that. So yeah.
Hey, gentlemen, can y'all hear me?
Yes, sir. How you doing?
Yo, dude, this has been. I think we're beating a dead horse with the royalty NFT ownership.
Are we rugging?
He's rugged.
No,
No,
he's rugged.
KTC's running.
No, KTC's right. Okay, well, let's move on to the
God
next
damn it.
topic because I kind of want to talk about, you know, I don't know if you guys saw, but DGods kind of took a nice little dip. Sub $1 last time I checked, and so we kind of wanted to talk a little bit about, you know, it's DGods bubble, and I won't call it a bubble because Frank's, you know, an awesome owner, but like, what do you think is happening with DGods Town? Because right now I haven't heard many developments as far as Duppies was their big one, and Duppies has been pushed out for ages. It seems like. Do you guys have any opinion on what's happening with DGods?
Yeah, man. Like, you just can't sustain that level of hype forever. I mean, everything that runs up. I mean, don't get me wrong. DGods is extremely solid project, and I think they'll rebound and even break their all-time high again. But it's like Frank's just been in the spotlight for months at a time now, and just like having that much visibility, it's like for so long you can't continue to sustain the amount of excitement or the level of hype for that long of a period.
Yeah, I feel like we're seeing a lot of sustained sell pressure on Dust because right now the market was in this like kind of down bad period where anybody who was buying Dust in anticipation of Duppies, well, they're not net buyers anymore because we're not sure when Duppies is coming or if the market can even sustain it right now. It's essentially what about a 10 SOL, 11 SOL, something. I think it's like 10 SOL mint right now, and so a lot of dead gods have an excess of Dust, and what they're doing is just keeping sell pressure on there. What do you think your advice would be to dead gods to kind of balance this market out? Besides, well, I guess just pushing Duppies as fast as possible.
Well, it was really just a mismanagement of expectations on a couple of sides, right? So you had this community pool that projects were incentivized to provide liquidity in the form of Dust in exchange for Duppy spots. Like that's really, I think, where they fucked up first. Like, you know, we put money as remnants into the pool. We had 30 spots. I think as it stands, we have like 5. That's tough for our community. We just lost 25 spots, and now we have to, you know, explain what happened. So I think the mismanagement of the pool itself, like they got to close it at some point too. They just can't leave it open in perpetuity, in my opinion, because those who had put 10, 20, 30, 100 grand into this pool are slowly seeing their benefit dwindle away because other projects have time to come in and make an allocation. And then just on the side of it too, like I know there's the whole delay, and I'm a DGods holder too, by the way. So, you know, I hope the best, and you know, this is constructive criticism, I suppose, but just for like the delay, they're supposed to mint what, beginning of June-ish for Duppies? Like that was the expectation, mid-June. And now, like I understand, I don't think it's the art like Frank keeps saying. I think he's just a smart guy and understands where we are in the market cycle right now. And to ask for users to spend $375 in Dust, whether they had it as a holder and they just earned it from staking, or it's, you know, the other 5,000, 7,000 folks who are going to have to come up with that money, it's a tall ask, even for the most hype mint ever. So I think it was just like, they just got to get the expectations back on track and stop like the, you know, weaponized anticipation. I think someone said it the other day on one of these YouTube streams, but they mastered weaponized anticipation, but they got to bring it back to like real expectations.
Anybody else disagree with that? Am I rugging?
No, well said, man.
Okay, I guess moving on to the next thing. Is anybody else an OK Bears holder right now? Show of hands. Anybody?
Yeah, I have DGods and OK Bears. I didn't really understand. Sorry, I didn't really understand the argument. You're saying DGods are a bubble, but yeah, I'm cool with going on to the OK Bears thing.
That's fine. Does anybody know what hibernating is and what value they're trying to bring there? Does anybody else see HGs? Well, he was.
Yeah.
He was
Oh
up
yeah,
in
can you
arms,
guys
dude.
pull that
Yeah,
up
I
on the
think,
screen? This is hilarious. Can you pull up that
Yeah,
tweet thread?
pull it up.
that was good
Yeah.
entertainment. But basically,
I know you guys
HG
can go ahead and talk about it. While I'm pulling
HG
it
was
up.
mad because their staking wasn't working for him, and then he said something in Discord, and then everyone got all defensive, and so then all these like OK Bears holders are like talking shit about HG when he has like 4% of the supply. It's just like a terrible idea, you know? like they should be playing ball with him because like he could literally like dump it to zero.
That's the
like,
craziest thing about NFTs, right? Like people will fud their own bags, or like or they'll do things that like shoots themselves in the foot. Like pretty commonly, like we see that in the NFT space. It's like, yeah, it's kind of interesting.
Don't you guys think like okay Bears is just because of the fact that some other dude owns just a can decide the market, like, because then there's really no business model that they've yet to at least for me have to execute. Like, are you guys thinking about it differently?
Well, part of me, KTC, didn't hear half of what you said, but I think you're talking about their business model. And like, yeah, I was just pulling up how much that they made in royalties, and it was about 131,000 SOL, which is kind of insane. So it does kind of, I'm not going to beat the dead horse anymore, but I just don't know what they've done to kind of justify that level of churn. But yeah, we can kind of see on the screen right here. This is HGE. Basically, he had a problem with hibernating, which has been in the process for like 2 months, right? And I don't even know what it does. I don't know what the purpose of hibernating is. Is it kind of like a soft staking method? Kind of like what?
It's a soft staking.
Okay. So do we have any idea what the rewards are going to be?
No,
Or
the founders probably don't know themselves and just going to roll it out when they come up with the idea for it.
Is that true? Really? They haven't really come out and said like explicitly this is what we think will be in there?
I haven't seen anything about it. I checked their Discord and their Twitter, and then it's just like, hey, you're going to receive rewards for having your bears hibernate, and that means you can't like transfer wallets; they have to remain in whatever wallet you have it in. So they're probably trying to figure out what they're going to do for rewards, and then just using this in the meantime.
I think the best thing they could do is copy Peblo from Cats on Crack and like drop them like bears honey, and then like speculate on the utility for like 6 months. That's probably like that would be the most bullish thing for them to do, in my opinion. Push it back, keep the anticipation going as long as possible, because like the team hasn't, like they haven't really delivered on anything yet. Besides I guess they did the wristbands, and so, but I think that's like a good narrative for them, is like the FUD and like everyone talking about OK Bears still is good for like the project, I think. So yeah.
Yeah, I think it's the lore of it. Alex, how many bears did you have, and did you like get your principal out, and now you're just kind of riding a small little bag, or what's your approach with them?
Yeah, I got super lucky. It was like one of my luckier plays. This play doesn't always work out. I mean, you like sweep day one, that doesn't always work out. So like, I'm not a good trader. Just super lucky on that one, because I swept the Just Apes day one. I swept 16 at 16. So like, I am still holding them. So like, just to like make sure everyone. But I swept like probably like, I don't know, like maybe like 11 or 12 OK Bears at day one, like in the 5 to 10 range, and then I sold like all of them but one in like the 50 to 100 range on the run up. So that's like, I'm already like up, but I have just one in my back pocket. And like getting back to the HGE thing, like I don't think it's actually healthy that someone buys that big ass supply, because just as easy as he puts it in a bull is just as easy as he can put it in a bear. And like you're almost at like the whim of that holder at that point. So you have to like play, like someone said, play ball. Dude, I don't want to play ball with anyone. If I don't like their opinions, dude, get out, bro. Like and I think like projects should not endorse like people. You should endorse people rather than the same people buying the same. Like you need to expand your community, not have one member buying a whole bunch. I like HGE. Okay, this isn't like a shot at HGE. This is more just like throwing that out there. Is like HGE put them in a bull, you can put them in a bear. It's like not a healthy collection now, in my opinion. And
Yeah,
like,
I don't think
I like HGE. I need to put like no one like I don't want someone to like quote me saying I like HGE. I'm just saying like that thing is not good for a collection.
No, it happened with DeFi Pirates too, with HGE. And again, he's cool. I've talked to him. It's all good. But he was a large holder of DeFi Pirates. They had some problems when they went to market with their actual game. It wasn't working. He fought the shit out of it in because he was such an influential person for getting people on board and staying in DeFi Pirates. So it seems to be like a 1-to-1 correlation. Just OK Bears has more success.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I also think that yeah, it's really tough. Oh, we could talk about whales too, because I think there is, we see it a lot in different projects, especially, Ryan and ourselves at Remnants, that we do have a lot of whales, and we love massive support from people. But I think there's an equilibrium when it comes to, for HGE, he obviously has a ton of money, dude. Like he can do that, but I also think there's danger because there's a lot of wallet trackers, and people would see like, oh, he's churning out like 100 buy orders at a time, right? Like he definitely wants to get into this project. I'm going to jump in. I think that's a really dumb approach, especially since HGE has proven. I mean, like DeFi Pirates was not a sound project, dude. Like they brought out their alpha and it was awful. And they've been trying to develop it for months. And dude, they have 100,000 SOL in volume, so it's not like they didn't have a shortage of funds too. I think they had a 8% royalty rate or something like that. So it was a lot, but I think. Yeah, when you start having that, you start seeing ebbs and flows. I think projects actually welcome it, especially projects that don't seem to be doing as much as they should with the funds they have, because it creates churn. So HGE buys a bunch. People see HGE bought a bunch, so they're going to buy a bunch. HGE starts funding the bags. OK Bears doesn't care, because now you get the volume down too. Like if they start selling, they're like, well, shoot, I just made a bunch of like money on royalties right here. So yeah, I dude, 4%'s a lot, especially on a collection size that big.
I don't even think HG was fudding. He just had he was just voicing like constructive criticism, and I think people's backlash how they approached his constructive criticism was a bit unjust. I mean, the team, it wasn't a surprise to the OK Bears team that HGE has this many OK Bears. I don't know why the team didn't talk to that individual to make sure that things were working prior to them launching. And as soon as they found out he had issues, I don't know why the team didn't reach out to him to like mitigate this stuff. So it's like, I think it's a failure on the team more so than it is on HGE.
That's fair.
Yeah, good point.
That's fair.
Wait, so that last part, I think it's more of an error on the team than it is on HGE. Is that what you said?
Yeah, just in the sense of like how they handled the situation, or the lack of handling it. It's like, you're coming out with a staking platform. Did you know, would there be issues if a person has X amount of NFTs? Would that cause issues with them staking? Does this individual who holds 400 NFTs is knowledgeable about how this works? Why aren't you contacting them directly and be like, yo, just want to make sure everything's good with you? Or like, even when he posted the tweet about it, community manager to founding member should have jumped in automatically and reached out to him instead of letting the community go ham on him, especially in Discord, because that's not it. And the mod should have shut that stuff down automatically when they would have when he was in the Discord questioning about whatever. I'm not in OK Bears Discord, so I don't know what happened, but it was bad enough for him to leave. So that type of toxicity, regardless of what your opinion on, like, oh, it shouldn't be toxic, or it's like the community wasn't doing it bad. Anyway, I just think it was a failing at all levels of the team, not handling this situation properly.
Yeah, well said. I think the community, something I've noticed is the community like often mirrors the like tone of the team. And so like if I don't even know, I'm not in OK Bears Discord either, I'm just speaking generally here, but like if the team is like fuck the FUD and like we're gonna like stomp everything out, any doubters, like fuck them, like then it can kind of create that like toxic shit. Like I've actually seen it in our Discord sometimes, and I've had to go in there and be like, yo guys, like you don't have to like shit talk somebody for like selling an NFT or like asking a question, you know? Because I do think that like you want to like onboard people to your project. You want it to be like somewhat welcoming. Even if there's like a good part, there's good aspects to like the cult mentality. Like you don't want any, like you want a place where people can give like genuine feedback so you can improve. So I agree with you. And then like also if somebody has 4% of your supply, like as a founder, I'm like, dude, I have an open line with them. Like I'll give them my fucking girlfriend's phone number. You know what I mean? If they need to contact me, like, you know, hopefully you don't have huge whales like that, but like our project has a few. We have, I think 2 or 3 people with over 100, and like, I know how to, like, they can get in contact with me whenever. So I'm surprised that they didn't have that with HGE, especially such a public figure.
Right.
Or just have him test with his 400 and then put in a good word on Twitter.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, like, seriously, they should, I don't know. It's weird because like, you don't want to like completely prioritize, you want to prioritize everybody in the space, the NFT space that participates in your project. But dude, whales have so much power and influence, and usually insight too. Like the people that are like heavily invested in you, they really generally have really good insight. And I think you should hear them out. It's just finding that balance of like when to take their advice and when not to. I've been in projects before one project, and I think that's when it becomes unhealthy, right? Like their insights are more emotional than they are logical. So Ryan, I'm sure you guys have your own set of whales as well. I know I hold a few. I know Shake holds more than I do. But like, have you had any issues with whales in your project?
Yeah, well, I can tell you guys a story about HG off stream too, but he's a really interesting guy. The whale thing for us is interesting, right? Because like any kind of game thing, I think Juice probably realizes this too. Like if you have a lot of whales, then the game becomes a little bit unfair for smaller holders in some sense. And so that's always been the biggest challenge, right? So you kind of like we built the system to run like events and things, and that's kind of like our way of like, we can reward holders in a way outside of royalties and floor price. And the last event we held was, I saw a lot of interesting things, like someone grinded a floor shin up to like second place or first place and then sold it for 10 SOL. And I think the floor was like 1 SOL or less at that point. And so there was like time arbitrage opportunities that came out of the event too. But the biggest complaint we had from a lot of the smaller holders was it was unfair for smaller holders. And so like we're trying to like balance this, like how do you reward whales essentially for their belief in the project, but also take care of smaller holders as well and make sure that they're everybody's investment counts. But yeah, it's kind of like that's one of the bigger challenges for NFTs, because there's not like you can say like don't buy anymore, right? And also you don't want to do that. Like if they believe in your idea enough to accumulate that many NFTs, you kind of do have to take care of them in some way. But it's a challenge. It's definitely a challenge.
Right, for sure. Alexander, do you have any opinion on as far as whales go, on since you have more of a neutral perspective, right? Like we're not project owners or runners or anything like that. As far as a trader perspective, do you like seeing whales in a project, or do you like seeing more of like an even distribution in a project?
I like when projects don't take any type of favoritism towards anyone. I think that's like shows that they're the project and not like their own. They own the project and not the collectors, in my opinion. Like if the founders are like, well, we don't need you, like that. If the second you start relying on someone, I feel like that's whenever you really like they can screw you over and you don't really get anything benefit. Like you get a short-term benefit, but then like long-term, if you're relying on someone, you need to stop and then just grow. Like that's the problem, is like you rely on this person and then they leave you and it's just like you're left in shambles. And if you started like the bottom, maybe you don't get propped up fast as fuck, but if you start from the bottom, just slowly grind your way up, it's going to be like such a solid foundation versus like one little stick holding you up and then that gets knocked over and then you're just like you're in shambles.
That's just like standard business too, right? Like if you have a business that has one customer that does 80% of your business and that customer decides to leave, then any business is fucked, right? Or like a lot of the businesses in Web 2 were heavily reliant on Google AdWords and Google AdSense for the revenue stream. And then Google changed their algorithm or their search results ranking and things like that. And then those guys all got their legs taken out from under them. And it's very similar. It's not a new concept to this to NFTs.
Yeah, I think it makes you more like, it just makes you stronger if you can have multiple customers. But I also think that's kind of a bad take, Alex, because like in like Ryan said, like in a lot of businesses, like I'm thinking of software sales specifically, like a lot of it's normal to have your bulk of business be like 3 or 4 customers. If you're like sell for Salesforce or something, for example, and like you give those guys like a lot of time because they are like a lot of your money. And I actually think it's somewhat similar with NFTs. Like, it's not saying one person is better than another, but like I just think that like Ryan said, there's a couple reasons why. But if somebody buys 100 of your NFT, like you should communicate with them, and like yeah. So I don't think it's like, oh, you should ignore them and just pretend it doesn't exist. Like maybe that makes sense to you, but I don't know. From my seat, it's bad take. Bad.
Yeah, I think there's a difference between like the ideal situation is there's a lot of holders, but if the reality is there are like concentrations in pockets, then you kind of you do take care of them in that sense, because instead of taking care of a whale takes care of the collection in general as well. But it really is like a balance, right? Like you're trying to create value for everybody equally, but then also having ways to provide value for people that have a lot. It's a biggest challenge, honestly. It's the biggest challenge for any project founder.
I think it's actually one of the worst, maybe possible the terriblest take I've heard from Shake. Like, I don't know if I've heard a more terrible take. You got to think about like what you're saying. You're saying you want to kill off the community and you want to have like one person running the community. You're like, we want this person to buy the whole collection, right? Let's put it in like under like a big telescope. Now we're looking at like a bigger perspective. Like, let's say they buy 99% of the collection. Yeah, we should cater to that guy. No, you want to build out your community. You want everyone to have, ideally, one person should hold one NFT, and now you have this huge community. And then you have like a shill army behind you, so you can do whatever you want at that point. So to have one person killing off your community, it just doesn't make any sense. And I think it's actually a terrible take. Like, I don't know why you would think of that. It's a bad take. And I think you need to reevaluate like the way you're thinking of how to build out a community.
All right.
Shake response.
I never did I say. Let me just say real quick. I know you're like, bro, like this isn't Twitter. Like you don't have to engage with farmers. Well, we're just having a discussion. Like, normally but like I never said to somebody that you want. I actually specifically said I don't want that. But if someone does, like, you can't control who buys your NFTs. I can't block HGE's wallets and say you can only own 5 Cyber Samurai. I'm saying if that's the reality, like you have to understand that. Like, and it would be stupid to ignore it and just go, oh, like I'm trying to build a community. You should always be trying to get more people in your project. You want better distribution. Like, so I said all those things, right? I never said 99% you kill the community. Like, you're just putting words in my mouth. So big bozo energy from you, like usual. Terrible take. L plus ratio. Goodbye.
No, I mean, think about it. Like, if you have one person buying up the collection, do you not see like one person rather than having like 10 people buy one NFT? That's my kind of question. Would you rather have one person buy 10 NFTs, or would you have 10 people buy one NFT?
The second, bro. That's what I'm saying. You want distribution.
Yeah. So don't you think it's a bad idea to have whales? So you're saying it's a good idea. I think it's a bad idea.
I never said it. I actually said I wish that it wasn't that way.
Look,
but the reality is for projects.
I had you stumbling. You're thinking about it. I can see you're like, man, Alex is right.
You're just putting words in my mouth, bro.
I'm not. I saw you like, you're like, what? You like stumbled and I saw it click like that. So now you know, bro. To going forward.
Show your face then, bro. Let's see your face, bro. You're so brave. What's good with your camera, dude? Let's see. You're stuck, dude. I'm saying it's bad, bro. I'm saying I wish I did. I literally said that. I wish it wasn't that way.
Shake, reality this isn't like a Twitter thing. You don't need to like personally attack me. I'm just attacking your ideas. Like, you don't need to like show your face. Like, we're not engaging. It's fine. We're here to like pass information. We're here for education and not entertainment. Like, that's all I'm saying. Is like,
you guys have whales? Do you guys treat them any differently, or do you think that like you should just ignore them and it's the same as everyone else?
I don't think you should ignore whales. Like, regardless of, like, I understand what you're saying, Alex. It's better to have a good distribution, but like, that's not reality. It's like, you're not going to have a project where every one person owns one NFT to have like this ultimate distribution. Every project will have its whales. So I think there's a balance of talking to those individuals, but not catering to them in the sense of disproportionate, where it's like you're giving them power over your project. In the case with HGE, this one individual does own so many whales. So just because you talk to that individual to try to make sure they're staking, to make sure that they're able to stake properly, I don't think is being unfair. But I would look at it as a great way to test out your product. It's like, nobody's probably going to have as much OK bears as this guy. So this is the ultimate stress test. So, and also it's like, taking in consideration for a stress test is not like them deciding the direction. It's like, we have whales in Shake. I'm sure Shake has whales in Cyber Samurai, as he said, with 100 and something. It's like, from my experience with him, he doesn't seem like he's ever catered to them, but he has talked to them about different processes in the project that he was working on implementing just to make sure it was right.
Yeah, I think the point Shake is trying to make is that like, nobody wants like whales. I mean, maybe some projects do want whales. Like, ideally, like the distribution is really good, like, and everybody holds like a few equally, but you can't stop anybody from accumulating. And so if someone does accumulate, then because of the fact that they can put bear pressure on a project, then you kind of have to like, you at least have some kind of communication line with them, right? But it's not like you want that. Like, nobody wants that ideally. I think the ideal situation for any project founder is like, you have 5,000 NFTs with 5,000 holders, right? And then you're pretty much good to go at that point. But that's not the reality. Reality is like, there's always a difference between what you want to happen and what happens, and you have to like, I think the most successful projects play into reality a little bit more rather than idealism. So but it's definitely a challenge, right? Balancing both.
Yeah, I just think you should treat them as equals. I don't think the whale should have any. I mean, if you want to kill off your community and like embrace people buying up the entire supply, I mean, that's what Shake wants to do. Just have one dude own all the cyber sandwich. By all means, like that's all for you. But I'm saying, like, as me, I want to have a robust community of like robust opinion. Like, I want everything to be just, like as big as I can make it, rather than like trying to make one person buy everything. And and everyone gets in this mentality like, oh, it's low, I need to sweep the floor. I'm like, no, bro, you need to get your buddy involved. Like, this is the time you want to get them involved. And no one wants to like do that because of like the financial response. But if your buddy does it and his buddy, and then now you have all your buddies in this community, and now it's like a buddy community rather than like, and they get it at a good price rather than when it pumps. You're like, look, it's pumping, and then you'll end up buying the top, and it'll just be. But like you feel like, oh, I'll buy the dip. No, get your buddy to buy the dip, or like. I see it all the time. Like projects will like give away an NFT. No, like give it to two people. Like instead, make them pay 50% of the NFT. Like get them a little skin in the game. I see a lot of people making mistakes, such as like killing off communities and pretty much putting whales on the. It like makes everyone who can be a whale feel worse. Is all I'm saying. Like you're making your community feel bad because I can't afford. Like I want to support Shake, but I can't afford more than one of these cyber samurais. So now like. The whale's getting special treatment just because he has more. No, dude, everyone's an equal.
Yeah, I think I agree with your point. And so, but besides the fact that I think that it's smart to speak specifically with the whales, I think you're disagreeing on that. But I agree with you. Ryan agrees with you. Like you should make it valuable for the person who has one NFT. Like their whole paycheck is just one of your NFTs. Like I try to make that person feel special too. So I agree with you, dude. I also think it's funny because I can tell, like I've talked with you off air and you're like so different and you have this like engagement farmer mindset with like just conversation. And I don't know how you do it. It's like fucking impressive because I wish I thought like that. Like my followers would be way higher, but I'm just impressed, bro. Like you managed to stir up the drama like in everything. So I just gotta say I kind of like that about you, if I'm being honest.
No, I mean, like, dude, if I'm joining like the D gods, if you have like one, I feel like it's like almost a privilege. Like, oh man, I have a D god. Like everyone feels like it feels fucking cool. Like no one likes like, oh, this dude owns like 100 D gods. Like he's cooler than me. No, dude, you have one, and you get that like feeling like, oh, it's fucking cool. I'm part of it. Like that's the ideal scenario. Not that like this. No, I don't want to use names, but like I see like people will like idolize this guy because he has like 200 in his collection, and then it'll be like in the background like sucking him off, like trying to make sure he doesn't sell any, and like now you're like that person runs the project rather than the founder.
Well, I guess Alexander, like if you had a project, how would you, and you sold your mint and then someone accumulated like 200 of them, like what would be your approach to dealing with this person? Would you be like just ignore them basically, and then like what kind of like what OK Bears did to HGE, or would it be like what? I'm just curious, like what would be your plan of action?
I would say sell it. If you don't like it, sell it. Like I want you out. I want to expand the community. And it's funny, I do have a collection low key. I'm not going to shill it, but we kicked out 2 people just yesterday. Like what did we do? We refunded them because they weren't good ambassadors for our project. I'm like, okay, bro, like we don't need you like at all in part of our project. And like thinking about like these whales, we don't need you. Like that's the mentality I feel like you have to get in. Is like, we don't need you. You need us. It's like the mentality I would like to see in a founder.
Yeah. I don't disagree with that.
Alex, so like I said, bro, I agree with you. And like we literally had this happen recently. Some guy, Dorian might remember, but some guy had like 80 of them and he dumped all of them at the floor, right? And like it actually was a really good thing for our project because it brought our holder number up, Mm-hmm. And like a lot of people were like, trying to get in contact with like our own community, like because they realized that when the floor price is going down and buyers see the big wall, like it actually can impede new buyers from coming in because they're like, well, the price isn't going to go up. There's 80 listed. Like he literally had like 60 listed at the floor. It was like pretty hilarious, but it was a good thing for our project. And so like, I ended up opening a line to the guy. Like I was just like, oh, like what's going on? He said he loved the project and he's like, oh, I'm trying to support it by dumping the floor, more distribution. And I was like, all right. And then he did it and like it did dump the floor, but it was a good thing. So I mean, I agree with you. Like I think there's like, I'm not saying cater to them and like, oh, they have the exclusive backroom VIP experience. It's like, no, I just am saying like, I'm aware of like people who hold 100 of them. If they want to talk to me, like I know who they are. I don't know every person who has one by name. Like that's all I'm saying, you know. But it's a good it's a good thing to not have like HGE type characters who like control the fate of your project. And I've been saying that since he did the whole meme about, oh, I'm buying 1,000 soul worth at 100 soul. Like he literally propped up the bears at 100 soul, and a lot of the bear holders were like hyped because they're like, they see their unrealized profit and they're like, oh, this is good. But I don't think that's a good thing. But again, if I'm Kais or Sobi, like, what am I going to do? Tell HG like, fuck off, bro, stop buying it? I mean, I don't know if I would personally do that. Would you do that, Alex? Would you tell him, bro, stop fucking buying it, bozo? Like,
no, I mean, it's free market, right? I'm not going to like stop anyone, but I'm also not going to put anyone on like if they want to sell, they need to sell. And I need to be prepared, like as a founder, like I said, like we bought out 2 people, no issue. We like didn't like the way they were like, I feel like because we're so small, it's like not fair to say like, but I feel like if you can do this in like in a larger grand scale and like build this like utopia type community, it's just going to be like going to make everyone. So the way I look at it, man, is like you have like, dude, we're getting deep. I don't know how deep we want to get, but I'm going to go. We're like, you have like a community of houses, right? And then there was just one house that just doesn't take care of his house and it's just like real shitty, right? And so the rest of the neighborhood brought down in value because of that. And so like you get rid of that, and then now the neighborhood goes back up in value. And I think that's like important for collections. But to get back to your point, I don't really understand what your point was. I feel like I already like hammer home your point of like whales are fine, but they're not like what you should be looking for, I guess, is what, like they should be no different than like a person that holds 1 shouldn't have any difference than someone that holds 200 is.
I think everybody agrees with that. Like, I think everybody here agrees with that.
Okay. I thought there was like something that people were saying they want whales in their project.
No, I don't think anybody here wants whales. I think it just, we realize that we have whales, and so we try to communicate with them.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that was a topic of conversation. It's like, how do we deal with whales, not whether if we want them or not, because people will be whales in a project. You can't stop that.
Like, whales are a sign that there's people that believe in your idea, and so like, and so they're inevitable to some extent. And like Remnants has some great whales. Like the Remnants whales are like the most like Remnant activist people on Twitter, on social media, right? Like they're going off every day about it. But it's just like, yeah, I'm sure like everybody wants.
Yeah. We have, it's also, when it comes to gaming too, NFT gaming, well, there's a lot of economies of scale that, especially in gaming, that you get from being a whale. So it's really like, we always want to incentivize something like that, but you also don't want to incentivize it too much where it just completely erodes the power structure of a game, right? So it's a really hard balance to find, especially in gaming, let alone a PFP collection where you're having so much social influence.
Studwood wants to get in the room, Bison. But I mean, like, I've been saying this recently. I think everybody in NFTs have been playing a play to earn game. Just that it's called flipping. Like everybody's been flipping for like the last year, and that's a game in itself too. And the game is kind of like shitty right now. Like it's not a great game to be playing, but people are still playing it. You know.
I completely agree, bro. I heard you say that in that space last night. I was tweeting this the other week. Like that is the play to earn game. Is like Magic Eden's the game. You go on there, you use your from like that. That is an experience in itself. But yeah, like the comparison would be like now, like the yield is dry, but some people are like, now you see who's playing it like for the fun of it. You know what I mean? Which is a lot less. Like if you look at the volume charts.
Right. And that's, I think, like just personally, like I think that's the opportunity, right? Like the projects can provide that those experiences that play to earn flipping game was giving people, then they'll be pretty well positioned to be in this bear market, I think. So that's what we're trying to do at Shins, but it takes time. Like I think the hardest part as a founder, I'm sure Shake, you can relate to this too, is like the timelines are skewed a lot between holder and what's actually possible with human beings like building things. And so that's been like the greatest challenge for me. But I mean, it is what it is, right? Like it kind of sorts itself out. And then like the big thing for me in the beginning was like, yeah, I want to build with a bunch of people. But if the people don't want to stick around, then it's like, okay, that's fine too. We're still gonna build what we're gonna build. But like the ideal that I had of like yeah, decentralized venture capitalists, decentralized angels, like that's actually not reality. So, but yeah.
Dude, I think an interesting topic because you talked about the mismatch of timelines, and I'd also be curious Alex's take on this, like too, as somebody who's pretty involved but not a founder. Like I struggle with this a lot. My nature is to be like super transparent, and as you guys know, like the product development is like not that sexy, right? And I think the projects that do really well are the ones who are like super mysterious and they like make you anticipate something for like a really long period of time. And like Cats on Crack with the Milk is like that. Oh, sorry, you are a founder. Sorry, bro, I forgot. No, I literally wasn't even trying to take a shot at you. I was just wondering from the trader's perspective is what I was asking. But yeah, like how do you guys view that? Like, because I think I hear people say, "Oh, I want transparent founders who are builders and like honest," but then like the price, like the market says differently. Like there's a lot of recent examples, but I think I'd just be curious to bring that up as a topic of discussion, like anticipation.
Alex is.
Are you saying like traders
Bro,
want to
you're angry
invest
at me
in
today.
builders?
Hey,
No, are you saying
I
traders?
still like you even when
I
you're
don't
mean to me,
understand
dude. Just know that, okay? I still respect you.
Well, I don't
I'm
know.
just
You were
wondering,
kind
like,
of bullying me.
do
You
you
said
guys
turn
think
on my webcam, interrupting me mid-sentence. I'm just trying to figure out what question you asked. You were long-winded and you weren't to the point.
I was. Okay. Do you think, like, when you're choosing projects to buy, like, how do you think about, I've really thought about it lately, like, you want to find people who know how to like make hype shit up and make it like draw out the anticipation. But then I hear people saying on Twitter they don't like that and they want transparency. But like I feel like the market is telling us that we're wrong, that transparency isn't good. Like that's just so that's kind of I'm just wondering, what do you think about transparency versus anticipation? Like how do you view that when you're picking projects to buy, like, etc.?
Yeah, so I've pretty much almost became a non-existent trader at this point in time. But what I have became is like really good to pick up on social engagement, and like that alone has like led me to like very successful projects. So that's my big piece. Like, can they socially engage with the community? Now there are projects that don't do any of that. Like you have SSC, who's like the worst marketing / social engagement, and they're like one of the top projects. You got DGen CoinFlip, absolute gutter. They mint today, and they're like trash social engagement, but they give back to the. So you can, dude, if you create like a really great utility, you can work. But like for me, I'm more of a person that like you can't deny social engagement like that. If you got enough people that want your product, short term, that's gonna pump, and like that's my bread and butter, baby.
Yeah, what you're talking about is top of the funnel. Like engagement is top of, like in business, you have like the funnel that squeezes into customers, and so engagement is the top of the funnel. You get as many people in the top as possible, and the bottom of the funnel is like 6%, 5%, 3%, whatever your conversion rate is. So if you're pulling a lot of people in the top, the number at the top is big. The number at the bottom is going to be big too.
Oh, I guess maybe I was misleading because I was so long-winded. Sorry, Alex. I'm more thinking about like there's engagement, right? There's like talking to your community, communications, but more I'm thinking about the quality of it. So like you can engage with your community a lot and just tell them exactly what the fuck is going on. Here's our budget, here's our plan. Or you can engage with them and be like, got milk, like Peblo always does. And I'm just like thinking out loud here, like, because I hear people say they want transparency. The market seems to say that transparency is bad. Would you guys agree that like you actually should try to bring down your transparency a little bit and drive more anticipation? Like, even though people say the opposite.
I think what Shake's
Yeah.
I get what Shake's asking. He's saying like, people always say like, oh, we want builders, but then what the market kind of responds to is mystery, like mystery around things, and I can see that.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
So,
I do think. Oh, go ahead.
it's like our first like 2 to 3 months after minting in December, we were all like on the scale of anticipation to full transparency. We were all anticipation, and we saw the floor reflect in that, and it went straight up parabolically. Now I think where we kind of messed up as a team, we've admitted this, is We laid out our roadmap exactly what we're going to do and told everyone. Therefore, if everything is priced in, there's nothing left to like imagination. So we've done exactly what we're going to say, but I think we kind of fucked up in that sense because there's none of that anticipation. It's all like, cool, Remnants said they were going to do this. They did it. It's priced in. So I think what we've been talking about as a team is getting back to that anticipation and starting to build it up more. Like you're talking about Pueblo, the guy pops in, the whole thing is mystery. He drops a tweet, it gets 500 likes, people buy cats. No one has any clue what they're doing, but that's what pumps the floor. So yes, absolutely feel that anticipation in the used correctly is like what does pump floor, and pumping floor is the best marketing you could possibly have.
Well said, man. And I'm right there with you. Another example is tile oil. Oil came out months ago, and then like recently, Tom finally started saying what the utility of it is. But up until that point, it's like that thing just hit Magic Eden and was starting to rip. I think oil hit like 25, 30 sold at one point. So it's like that anticipation of like, and speculation of like, oh man, what could this do? What is this going to be used for? How can we, like, what benefit can I get from trading this is really what drives the floor price. Another good example is Town. No Discord, no none of that. Is just like that thing had everybody going. It's just like, yeah, let's just send my 11 soul NFT to a random wallet with the hopes I get something back. Well, I do think a lot of anticipation is good. Every time you up that level of anticipation, it gets harder to exceed it. So it's like you have to constantly exceed the previous level of anticipation that you set forth, or it's going to have a negative impact on the floor price. So you have to balance anticipation to not set the bar too high where it can negatively impact you in the long run.
Well said. Yeah.
Sorry
That I wasn't asking a direct question, Alex. It's more a topic, like, because I've been reframing my mental model as both a trader and founder, because like I said, for me, it's natural to like want to just be super honest, but I've learned that actually is like bad for the floor, because of exactly what you said. So that I just kind of wanted to hear like your guys' opinions on it, because yeah, I just think it's interesting mental model as a trader and founder. Like as a trader now, I'm thinking more about that, like who has bullets left in the chamber to drive insane anticipation. And like I love DGods. I don't own one, but like I look at DGods and I'm like, they might have fewer bullets left than somebody like Cats on Crack or like Tayo or something like that, where it's like they have more like shit to pull out and anticipate and hype up. So that's just it's just something I've been thinking about the past couple of weeks, like I said.
Yeah, we all love like the transparency. So I think the transparency comes in just building that initial trust with the team. So I think it's better to be more transparent, like upfront, like during mint and that first couple of weeks after mint. But then after that, it's like there still needs to be mystery on the roadmap. I think Catalina Wells kind of did a good job with this. Like they have like their blueprint that talks about different events, but it's not like clearly outlined about how we get there. So I think that's important to like, hey, this is what we're working towards, but there's levels of anticipation that you can bring within those gaps between the points to keep people interested in the project. So not everything's baked in the price already.
Right. Yeah, I had this, I had a post earlier. It got like no engagement, so I'm doing great. Nobody ever wants to read my thread, so I don't even know I keep doing them. But yeah, I basically said like it's a art when trying to there's a balancing act of under promising, over delivering, and selling the public on an idea. And I would encourage everybody who is in the podcast space, likes listening to podcasts on drives or walks or anything. Business Wars is basically, you can hear it time where it's all these founders. I'm talking Bezos, I'm talking Elon, I'm talking who is the Hershey's founder. They all came up with these radical ideas that they sold first. They sold the overarching vague idea where it's like, hey, I want to make milk chocolate. Back in the day, nobody knew what the fuck milk chocolate was. Or like, hey, I'm going to do like consumer aircraft missions going to space. Like, dude, that's a huge idea, but you don't give them the details on how to get there, right? Like, you don't give them the exact blueprint on how to do it. And the reason you don't do that is because it allows you to pivot, right? As long as you have the vision and you align everybody to the vision, how you get there doesn't matter. It actually allows you flexibility on how to move it, but you have to give them some sort of ambiguity on like, this is going to be massive. I'm going to onboard a ton of people, and you don't give them a timeline. You don't give them the exact details. Then go boom, right there. You now have the anticipation that is now achievable, and you also have.
I was literally just going Bison, yes, and then he cuts off. Did he cut off for you guys?
Yeah, man, he rugged
he's
again.
gone. Yeah.
Oh, damn, that was such a good.
But no,
ban.
yep.
Yeah.
Just went in.
No,
You're back now. You're back.
I will never stream from. Bro, this is awful. I am rugging so hard right now. This is great. I will never stream from Mexico again, even though it's awesome having Juice here, personally. But yeah, no, it really is. I think enough project owners don't study enough business, and what I mean by that is like business theory, how to create a longevity of business. Right now, they're just trying to capture the hype, and there's a good way of going about hype, where it's like, hey, we are all going with. I'm going to lead you guys to the promised land. Not like, hey, buy my product now and get X rewards or something. I just think there's alignment of vision that people need to go through. It's something that we talk about extensively while we're down here, of getting our community back aligned on vision, rather than like our big mess up was we detailed an exact roadmap of going through some of them. We're like, well, you know what? I don't know if that's a good idea right now, right? Like, I don't know if it is a good idea to implement like LP while we need to figure out like token demand and stuff like that. And so because we had already detailed it out, like that screwed us. Like now we have people that are like, you guys didn't implement an LP, you guys aren't doing anything. But in reality, it's like, no, we had to pivot. And unfortunately, because we already listed that out, it now puts us in a position where the vision was misaligned because we tried something, it didn't work. Now we have to try something else or prioritize something else, right? So I think that's the thing, that you have to capture the anticipation. You have to align people on a grand vision on like, this is where we're going, but you can't give them all the details, because if you do, you don't give yourself the flexibility. I think that's bad. You got to have flexibility in entrepreneurship, especially in Web3 projects where we're such a nascent industry.
And it's a good contrast between like standard stock, like publicly available commodities and stocks, right? Like what pumps price is usually like press releases or like trade show events and announcements, but those things are like announcing things years in the future usually, and that affects price action in the stock. But NFTs is like kind of like that in a little bit, but it's like different in a little bit too, right? And that's I think that's kind of what everybody that's building in this time period right now is they're figuring out collectively, like, okay, what is NFTs? How does that drive price action on the floor price and the value of the NFTs? It's challenging because the roadmap makes sense to me. Like I loved it. Like I read the roadmap for Remnants when it first came out. I was like, dude, I got stud on. I was trying to get him on a podcast, but I was trying to start up when Remnants were like one soul or something, and it was like, it was great for me. Like I got it, but yeah, like what you're saying now is like things get priced in. A lot of people now know that that's what you guys were gonna do, and you guys have delivered on everything, but there's nothing left to like, what's next, right? Like they're looking for the next anticipation or the mystery.
Yeah, we'll give it to them too, because we can see ourselves being so much like so relevant in the 6 months, year plus after that life cycle, where we have to kind of give them enough information, but we don't want to overpromise again, right? Like we will implement most, I would say all of those features that we have on roadmap. It's just the priorities became different, right? Like I think we also did a little graphic where it showed like green was going to be implemented more, and then red was going to be implemented later. And I think once we started implementing some features, it's like, okay, let's take a pause. Let's see how it reacted, right? A lot of things we saw was friction in the game. So it wasn't as easy. It wasn't as seamless. And we need to go back to that. Like we need to root ourselves in fun so people are like enjoying the game. It's very much, we get back to our ethos of an idle, fun game. And some of the features were just over encumbersome, right? They were chores. So it's like, well, we don't want to add land and stamina just yet until we figure out how to make this version of the game seamless, so then we can add more features. Because the last thing you want to do is add another set of encumbersome features where it feels more like a chore than it is fun. And I think a lot of projects can learn from that, right? We definitely can.
It's timelines, man. Timelines are like a team's worst enemy right now, because we're we're so early. We're such like this nascent phase where we have excellent developers, and I know I can speak for all you guys too. I think it's like as good as you can be, since we're building this all for the first time. There's no precedence. There's no blueprint on how to build an NFT project. So it's like, you launch something, you didn't foresee XYZ happening. It pushes everything out another month. Then the community gets pissed. Then you have to like rebuild some anticipation and start the whole cycle over again. So it's like there's full product market cycles playing out within weeks instead of years, as opposed like making the contrast between Web 2 and Web 3.
For sure.
So everything is just so sped up, and it's really hard. It is a balance. It is an art to like find that middle ground. And like we're tools and like everyone can get Web 2 running a company. We don't have that yet because we're not there. It's really hard to figure out these, like you were alluding to, Ryan, for these funnels, like the sales funnels, conversion funnels. So it's very hard to figure out like anticipation at the high side, conversion at the bottom, what's in between. It's just it's a very, very difficult balancing act that I don't think consumers or retail buyers really have an appreciation for quite yet.
Dude, I love that. I love this whole kind of idea, Bison, and I like how you brought up some like successful businesses outside of crypto, and kind of like what I'm taking away from it is that like the top tier projects, like it's a balance and they do both, and because I don't want to get too cynical, because they do still deliver. Like they deliver really cool things that like they over deliver, but they also give enough room for that like anticipation. And like if you, like you said, you brought up Steve Jobs, Elon Musk, like I'm pretty sure so many people buy like Tesla stock because like of speculation they're going to do a phone, right? I mean, how much have they released about this phone? Like very little information. Like I don't think they have a timeline, or right. But they have like some of the coolest cars. So it's kind of justified to like have this huge premium on it. So that's kind of my takeaway. Like I think as long as you're still like delivering really quality shit, which I mean, I can look around at Remnants and Shinsengoku, and I would say like both you guys are, that it's like, you have to kind of play the game a little bit and like give people like room to anticipate and like excitement, because the best utility is, I mean, it's weird saying this as a founder, but like the best utility is the price just going up, and like you can't tell people the price is gonna go up, but like you want it to, for the sake of your community. Like that's better than anything you could give them, is like making them money, and the anticipation is a huge part of that.
Yeah. Real quick, I want to touch on anticipation. And you have a job in Web3. I'll let you say it. I know you already said it on my stream before with who it's with, but how much do you value this? And then two, who do you see as somebody who's doing a really good job of it as far as projects in the current, like who's relevant today?
The question kind of broke up. I think that was a question directed to me.
That's fine. I was asking what project does a really good job of this engagement and anticipation that is relevant today?
Yeah, so Liberty Square, there's like, it goes through metas. I feel like we just go through metas. Like what the two metas kind of worked, I would say, were like two projects that sold out recently at their asking price. It's like very rare at this point to sell out at your asking price. A lot of them are cutting supplier price. So Liberty Square sold out its asking price. Baked Beavers sold out their asking price before that. And they're just like heavily involved in these like Twitter spaces. I think that helps a lot, which is kind of weird. It's like a meta right now. That will die, but like if you're asking like current day, like doing like tons and tons of Twitter spaces, and like Rug Revenants doing tons and tons of, they're like one of my favorite ones. Like you need to clip that one out. Don't say you like that one. But I see them all the time, and it's literally because they're just in my face, annoying. I think that's like the best, like just nonstop. Imagine driving a car and like every ad you see is the same stupid ad. Every space I join, I got to deal with that stupid Rug Revenant, and he's always so friendly. And I tell him like, but the same thing with like Liberty Square. I was like, oh my God, get away from me. But they just like, they will not. And it's just like a nonstop ad you see. I'm like, oh my gosh, get this thing away. But like just being like that in your face as much as possible is the best way. And like consistency, like people want to just do like one thing, do consistently in their face. Just don't take no for an answer, is what I would say to these projects. Like join spaces, just keep requesting to speak. If they don't, just keep requesting. And if they don't, just keep requesting. And if they don't, just never stop it. I think there's no like one single answer. I mean, obviously you can get your influencers on board, that'll help, but like there's nothing that'll beat an annoying person like at all. Like if you're annoying and you're just nonstop in their face, like commenting on people's tweets and just that's what I would do if I was a project. And some projects are doing that, like being annoying. Like look at Magic Eden. Like how did they come? They're just super annoying, just like commenting everywhere. Like the interns ratioing people. Like OpenSea's doing nothing. That's been their whole business model. Do nothing.
What happened with Yoon last night? I saw some back and forth going on for Magic Eden.
I don't know. Wait, it's funny. They all come in eavesdropping on our conversation. We're just, we're just kicking it. Like the conversation's lax. And then I look down the audience. I got like half the Magic Eden team listening. And I'm like, okay, well, we'll take time to dunk on the mat. If they want to hear about feedback, I have no problem letting them know where they're messing up. And so they came up and they wanted to shill their like gaming thing that they think they're, you know what? Magic Eden needs to fix their launch pad before they go any further than what they have. Like they're already, I bought it the last 2 minutes. Like and another one was, I forgot the other sell, Degen Town. Like, so that's like kind of different than the current meta. They weren't really in your face, but they had like Ramos, like, so like we could go down like another, like, so yeah, like the Ramos was like successful ETH person, in Web3, like that's so bullish. I know these like Web2 successful people that are like want to transition to Web3, kind of doesn't really work. But if you have like a successful Web3 person, but what do you define as success? Probably a founder that's like their mint prices went over a mint for a long period of time and they've been in this space for a long period of time rather than like someone who's been here short. Like if you look at Shake, right? He's probably what you consider like, if he was to do a mint, dude, I think you could sell it out, Shake. Like a one soul something 5K, something like that is where I put you. You're like mid, like you super midish is what I'm saying. But like what
I thought you were trolling me, bro, when you said a nice thing.
No, I'm letting you know where you're at. Like,
I was like, he's about to mega dunk on me right now.
No, well, I'm saying like you're a known presence in the space and you've like, if for me, right, I'm personal. Like if you have a known person in the space and they're able to like position themselves on like projects that you could quote, like I'm not going to say anything's a success, but like they are working on a project. So, and it's been a long period of time. Like those three things in Web3 are like kind of like the bread and butter, in my opinion, to make someone like relevant and give people to give them money.
For sure. No,
I think the great thing about Shake is that he minted a collection in the peak and the floor price went down and he never gave up and he continued to work on his project and he came back, which is what gives him the credibility to do what you're talking about now. Like he can do anything. And, like everybody knows like, hey, this is the guy that never gave up. Like he just kept going and now it's back. So that's why he deserves that.
Yeah. Damn, guys. Thank you for the kind words.
I think that's it. I think those are like two things in the current meta, just nonstop in your face, or like have someone who's like heavily backed into Web3, not Web2, Web3. Like that's a big thing. Like I've been asking actually project, like one of my big things, like does anyone on your team have any prior experience of doing an NFT? Because it's so much fucking more different. Like even just being like a moderator, advisor, like any part of the team, do they have any experience? Because I'm willing to bet on someone who's like quote unquote rugged, because they're going to know like their previous mistakes. And like, that's how OK Bears, like they knew where they messed up. Probably you could say, I mean, some of the best projects ran quote unquote rugs. Like you think of like Azuki, even like Trippin' Apes, they had like a prior rug, but like, look how well they marketed the second version of it. So, I mean, they didn't do, the floor pricing, but I'm saying like they marketed so well, like in comparison.
Yeah, I got rubbed. My first project in Solana I worked for as the social media manager / marketing person. Lasted about a month and a half. Dev walked away, deleted Discord, tried to derug it, but like that was so valuable and it led to the Remnants and these guys found me. But like I totally agree with that. Just having that little bit of experience was like huge.
Yeah, the Web3 building is so different in Web2. Like I can talk to that firsthand. Like it's a completely different thing and it's like compressed intensity into like shorter time frames. But yeah, so there's a lot of credibility to that. Like people that have gone through this and still want to do it again, they definitely get a little bit more credit than people that are coming in from Web 2, where it's like, oh yeah, this is easy. I did this in Web 2. It's a completely different thing.
For sure. No, I guess my piggyback question off that is like for the audience, because I'm sure like we are all dude, I've lived this shit at this point. For somebody who is more passive and still interested in NFTs and they're still here, but they still work like a 9 to 5 or something, how would you go about saying like this is somebody who rug, but they you can tell they learned something, versus this is like a serial rugger, right? Because there's a fine line between the two where it's like, hey, I learned something from my previous project and I'm going to implement it here. And then there's a fine line between like somebody who's like, man, this was super easy to rug. Let me just get another huge mint going and get a bunch of funds and I'll dip out again. I'll slow rug this so I get some royalties as well. How would you go about saying that, for somebody who is not as exposed as we are to identify something like that?
Yeah, there's not one right answer, right? So you got to think like the mint price. Like, was it a free mint? Like, what do you consider a rug? Is like, are they still active on Twitter? Like, are they engaged with their community and it's not working? Like, there's like so many different ways, but I think like that's what I would say. Like the Bitbirds, for instance, like it was like a 0.1 SOL mint. Like it was very low risk for like anyone to invest in them. So I feel like that's kind of fair. They were still engaged in the Discord community. So they're not gone. They're just engagement's low. Like that's hard, like being in someone's face when your floor price is plummeting. And then I guess what else would those probably two alone, like literally like the prior and like are they staying engaged in the community? If they just like deleted the Discord and Twitter, then yeah, then I would not want to entertain them on a third project or a second project.
Right. Anybody else have any input on that?
Well, this is kind of what Juice said, like about his experience working for one project and then going to Remnants. Like, for me, I relate a lot with that because like I did Cyber Samurai, like didn't know shit, had never run a successful company, in any way. And then when I helped the whales, even though it wasn't my project, I like advised them on a lot of operational stuff, like just basics of like, how do you go from idea to like 10K followers in a mint, And when I advised them, it was so much better, the launch, than Cyber Samurai was because of that stuff. So I think that, I just, to nail home that point, like with an example of my own, something else that's kind of what Shill and Villain was talking about, where it's like somebody being up in your face all the time and being like, Bungeal calls it like violently present. Like you're just like always like around and people know your name. That is for sure something that I look for when I'm investing in projects. And like, I'll give an example of, Catch King, which is a project that like I'm one of the big holders of, and they asked me for advice. That's what I told them is I was like, dude, I don't care if you have like 200 followers, but like people should get to know you as a founder and not just like this like abstract company. And like I would say Juice and Ryan here are like two good examples of that, where like they shit post, they like give their takes, like they give market analysis. And so people become familiar with like the person. So yeah, long story short, I think it's super important to also have like a front man. So if somebody has like a strong front man who like has experience in Web3, like that's like, that's huge confluence for me if I'm looking for like a project to buy.
For sure. No, it's really good input. I hope everybody else is listening. Unfortunately, we kind of rugged there for like the first 30 minutes with Mexico Wi-Fi, but this is really good talk. I think it's really important for people to see like there is leeway. You should be what they've learned in Web3 because it's such a nascent industry, but there is also like you need to remain critical and vigilant on like who is just kind of checking boxes to make sure they mint out for the next one and take all the funds and eventually slow rug it. So yeah, I do think there's a ton of risk in this industry, but when you pay out and you really get involved with the project, especially one that has learned a lot, you can take that for yourself too. You can take that to the bank. That knowledge is sometimes more valuable than like any 20 SOL flip or something like that. It can set you up for the next bull run. So for the traders out there, take notes. For the people who are aspiring to start a project, take notes. We still do have room for projects. I think right now is not the greatest time to mint anything. I'm personally not, but there's, I'm bullish on you guys. Is there anything else we need to talk about? I mean, Trippin' Apes kind of sucked. I'm glad you touched on that, Alex, but I'll just like going from 80 SOL to 10, like the Hydra scandal. And it's nice to see Hydra. I called it too. I said Hydra is going to be like, reptiles is like their focus right now, because if they make that work, then they can validity again in the market, and they've learned from their mistakes, which were massive, dude. I mean, like there's insider trading with their whitelists and stuff. So I guess my question would be, do you think Trippin' Apes tribe as a byproduct of Hydra's fuck ups, or did they do something else that you think like, man, they really like missed their shot here?
Are you talking? I don't know if that's directed towards me. Are you saying like the whitelist selling? Is that what you're saying? Like the fuck up for Tripping Apes?
Yeah, like so their floor price went from like they started out at 80 at one point, they went down to 60 pretty quickly, and then kind of stabilized anywhere in the 40 to 60 range, and now they're down to 10, dude. Like it's bad. So I guess my question is like, is it a byproduct of Hydra specifically, like in their mess up, or did Trip and Ape do something? Because dude, they have like, I know it was definitely that botted. There was a lot of crossover on socials back in that time where it's like, hey, you give some whitelist if you interact with this post, I give some whitelist, and then we have cross-pollination of audiences where people are growing like 300K to 500K followers very easily. And we saw it with Great Goats, we saw it with Trippy World, we saw it with, I mean, there was a ton back in that month or two phase. So I guess my question is, where did Trippin' Ape Tribe go wrong, right? Like I think that's my big question.
I just think they were, so like it was during the little the PFP / branding meta where we saw Kets rip when they minted. Then right after that was OK Bears. So they were trying to catch on to this narrative wave of like, oh, we're going to be the next OK Bears. But honestly, I'm kind of bearish on any project that mints another damn ape, because to me it's just a derivative of a Bored Ape. So I'm just think that it was probably dead on arrival, man. I'm bearish on primates. I don't know anything about that project, but it's like, I just don't see why we need another branding PFP collection in this space. So it's like, at that time when people were so hyped on Trippin' Apes that they were also planning on rotating to Hello Panther and Great Goats and Kings of the Street. They were all minting around that same time. So it's just like, I don't think there's anything that they really could have done to sustain that level of hype. And it's like, starting out at an 80 soul floor price based off of nothing, it's like, it's not surprising that they are where they are today.
Yeah, and I think so. I believe that their founder was or is an event promoter. So they did a great job of doing what they did best. Like they saw an opportunity, said, hey, we can really promote the shit out of a product. Let's go ahead and see if we can capitalize on this opportunity. Where I think they're starting to hit some friction or hurdles is, like Shake was saying, that lack of previous Web3 understanding or experience is what they hit that wall now. And they're like, all right, so we're trending towards 10. Like what now? And I hope they figure it out. As someone who spends all day on Twitter, like, I don't know their value proposition or what they're doing next. So you take it for what it is, but like, it's just it could just be a lack of true NFT experience and filling that product life cycle with something else outside of just hype.
Yeah, cool. If anybody else has anything,
Bison, did you want to talk about, you had mentioned you wanted to talk about some of the stuff that you guys are doing with Remnants? Like, can you just tell us like what's going on? Why are you guys in Mexico? Like, what's coming next for Rems?
I'll let Juice give his anecdote. We don't want to share too much. Again, it's kind of going back to that. We need to be better at building anticipation and
yeah,
really,
that'd be funny if you just respond. You're like, something huge is coming, bro.
So I mean, dude. What we have ambitions for is honestly game changing. I really do believe it's honestly game changing. But I'll let Juice kind of take it away right now versus not.
Yeah, just delist. We got to go. No, so we're down in Mexico. So myself and the core team, I've been working with these guys since last September, and we've never met. So Mexico was just easy for me coming from New York, and for the UK guys, COVID does some funny things. So Mexico was just like an easy place to hang out in like a beach kind of setting. So, we got together specifically at this time because we're facing the same challenges as everybody else of like, all right, we know the product we want to build, we have a vision, but like we have to figure out how to communicate that to the community in a way that keeps people around, because, like we've harped on all day long here. Like, if you don't build up and sustain that hype, you're gonna die out. So, we're down here in Mexico getting shit done. We've got, whiteboards and our doors filled with scribbles. I can give a little bit to what we're going to be doing, and it goes back to just like finding different ways to create revenue streams. And we've had these plans for a long time, but I'll give an anecdotal example of like you guys are familiar with like Flickr, the photo app. They kind of saw huge growth and then died out. So Flickr was actually previously an RPG game. It was called like Quest Everlasting, and they launched this in the early 2000s. And what they found happened after launching is the game was great. They built it out, but they had a certain feature of the game that really caught fire, and it was sharing images within the game itself. So they pivoted and realized, like, all right, we have this image sharing platform. Let's go ahead and build that out as a separate kind of thing from Flickr. And we kind of realized, since we've launched in 7 months time, we have a ton of data. We found out what people gravitate to, and found like a certain demand in the industry, which we didn't initially foresee when we launched. So we're going to be adding, some more, I'll say, software-based solutions for the Web3 and hopefully Web2 space to diversify out from being just a game. So we're going to absolutely here now, like we're going to stick to the roadmap. We have what we're going to build, but we've got a lot in the software area as well that we're going to capitalize on, because we think the underlying tech has a lot of value that founders and projects are seeking. And scene, delist.
Delist.
How are you guys going to balance that? How are you guys going to balance that with like providing value for the holders again, right? Like that's always the big conundrum, the trilemma, I guess, of like NFT projects, like delivering value for holders, generating revenue for the project, and then the whatever the third thing is. I don't know off the top of my head, but
yeah,
what are you guys planning for that?
So I'm looking at it in front of me. It's all written down. It's been tough, man, because like we're like pumped to talk about it and finally release it, but we've been like worried about getting front run. But there is like, we are connecting the game itself with our all that value gets back. Let's just call them the Gen 1 holders of 8,000 remnants.
Yeah.
It's been a tough egg back, like I'm not gonna lie, but we're at a place now where I confident and have conviction that the model we figured out will be good for someone starting on day one with a new product, and someone was an OG who minted on day one as well.
Yeah.
But a lot of it does revolve around like the existing token model. I will say that too, because at the end of the day, if your token is not sustaining and it goes to zero, what's the point?
For sure. Yeah.
So that's us. I'm curious for you guys. You guys want to have a sign off too? Like, I'm a Shin and Sam holder. So what do you guys got got going on?
Shake, you want to go
Something
first?
huge.
Something huge.
No, I mean, well, we kind of already, like, some people have noticed, but we're just basically building out a lot of stuff for our like soft staking, and trying to make it like, it's kind of like going to be like a social media layer of Web3 social media layer. It's not like we're making a social media app, but it's just making it like more like social and like competitive. So people are going to be able to see their Twitter profiles like of other holders and stuff, and then they're going to kind of compete in this little like off-chain game that we're coming up with. And yeah, so that's kind of like the immediate short term, and pretty excited about it.
Merch looks sick. I'm excited for my hat.
Yeah.
Yeah, you guys.
Yeah, and the merch. We're gonna keep making the merch. The response from the merch was crazy, bro. Like, I couldn't believe that people wanted to buy it. Like, and like actually a good amount of people. Like, that's been like a huge dream of mine. Like, since, if you asked me 10 years ago, like I would have told you that's what I wanted to do. Like with my life, was like make a streetwear company. So to be able to kind of like do that through NFTs is like been super rewarding.
Yeah, I mean, like that's the thing, right? Like if you have a brand that people connect to, they want to wear it. Like clothing is an expression, and NFTs are an extension of this, like an expression of who people feel that they are. And so putting on a Cyber Sam hat is like, I am an NFT person that also enjoys this collection, and people want to express themselves at a core level. So it makes sense. Like we had like things that businesses in the past that I did, like we sold a shitload of t-shirts, and it's like, and then like, why do people want to wear it? But then it became very evident. It's like, yeah, people want to express. Clothing is a way that people express themselves, no matter what they throw on. It's like an expression of that. So
yeah, and then ours, like, people always ask me what it is because it's like a weird name, like they're like Cyber Samurai. It's kind of like nerdy, but like you can tell like it means something, and
right.
So people actually ask about it a lot. And then it's funny to see the reaction when I'm like, oh, it's my NFT, like I can tell a lot of people are like, oh, this fucking idiot.
yeah, that's what people want. Like we used to put out all these like cryptic ukulele t-shirts back in the day, and then people wear them because they want to have that conversation starter, or like some kind of like you can connect with that person, right? You see that thing, it's like, oh, I know exactly what that is, and you have like people just want human connection at the end of the day, and it's kind of like what a lot of this commerce is driven by. But as far as like what we got for Shins, like we're still like we did the same thing as Remnants. Like we put out our roadmap in the beginning, and we're about to like pound out like the last parts of it next month, and so we'll have like a bunch of the things that we had listed on that, like new troop types and better battle mechanics and things like this. Like the challenge for us was like we minted like when Sol was crashing, right? And like we probably the big like Juice did a great job of like explaining what they did wrong. Like what we did wrong with Shins was the product that we released initially was a little bit too early in the product phase, and so like we didn't have like the strategy elements that we always intended to design, and it was just like a matter of timing, right? Like if we had waited till now to try to mint, like we would not have sold out at all, right? But because we did that right when Sol was crashing, we got the mint funds to build out basically what we wanted to have at day one now, and so like that was like a miscalculation on our part, like how long it would take us to get to this part. But I think 3 months is still pretty fast in terms of like dev speed, like what we're pulling off. Yeah, I mean, so yeah, like the things that we're focusing on now are like the roadmap that we put out right in the beginning, and we'll be able to get 99% of it out by end of August, and so that's kind of what we're focusing on. But we have some other really, really cool shit that we can't talk about yet. I don't want to talk about it, but like some things that are like, holy shit, I didn't even know you could do that kind of things with NFTs. Like that was one of my big goals for Shin, was like, I saw everybody trading these picture profile things and playing that flipping play to earn game, and it's like, dude, people don't even realize like how fucking cool this technology is. Like the tech stack behind NFTs and what you can do with metadata and a digital asset that you can prove ownership over, like it's fucking nuts, and nobody knows what you can do with it yet. So a big like mission for me with Shins was like, okay, like regardless, we're gonna show people like, fuck, this is possible. And I think Remnants was like a big unlock for a lot of people too, right? Like Remnants showed people like this is an NFT that, oh, now it's your character in a game. And like that was like a big jump from what NFTs were prior to that. Like, and I think on Ethereum they have some games like Raid Party and some other Wolf game and things that kind of like that, but you guys did a lot to move it to like this Web 2.5 realm, right? Where you have like value stored on chain and you're unlocking value of an NFT through Web 2. Super interesting. Like I think what we'll see from NFT projects over the next 2 years are going to be explorations in that phase where you're storing value on chain and then creating value off chain in different interesting ways with what you can do with a verified asset, and bringing that into different things is really interesting. So
yeah,
that's what we're working on.
That's a thesis we're betting on too.
Yeah, for sure.
Almost to a T. That was well said. Yeah,
I mean, like fuck, people don't know. Like people don't like. That's one of the things I've been really like. My wife fucking hates hearing about it. Like people don't fucking know what you can do with these NFTs. Like it's crazy. Like the things that are going to be unlocked. I've told Bison about this. Like the whole idea of and Shake too. We talked about this too. Like what the fuck is the difference between like an NFT and like airline miles or like Starbucks rewards or like any of these things, right? It's just gamified commerce, and so like the big unlocks are going to come from like using NFT for gamified commerce. And that's when you'll see like the big boys come in trying to take market share of that. But then again, it goes back to that royalty conversation that we had at the beginning. Is like, if royalties go to zero, that model of gamified commerce is going to look much different than the gamified commerce with royalties. And so just to bring it full circle for you, Bison, and close it out,
that was beautiful. So I guess we'll sign off with one. Dorian, did you ever get your YouTube channel back?
Still working on that, dog. I just submitted another, like my first appeal got straight up denied. I found that out because I went to submit another one and that one went through. So I'm confident I'll get it back. And then once I do, I got a whole bunch of content planned, several projects I want to cover in depth to really give the community a good understanding of what's going on behind it. But yeah, I got my fingers crossed, man, and I'm still optimistic about it.
Why did it get taken down? Like I have a YouTube channel.
So, yeah, I got a random email from YouTube saying my channel was terminated because of like spam and deceptive practices or whatever. And then I looked through the community guidelines, and I don't feel like it was probably like algorithm thing by me actually posting something that shouldn't have. So it was just randomly got an email saying it was terminated, man. So I put some things in it that could be. So hopefully I hear something back.
Yeah, for sure. Well,
yeah, that was also the most stressful thing for me. Like I don't do my YouTube channel anymore, man. But like I got to like 300,000 subscribers, and like before you get to 100,000, you don't have that contact at YouTube that you can just like, hey, what the fuck's going on? Like it was super stressful. I remember
Yep.
getting up to that point too. Yeah, fuck. I hope you get it back, man. That sucks.
Thanks, man. I got rugged by YouTube, but I guess life goes on.
Yeah.
Yeah. Web3 YouTube incoming. Alexander, we're going to sign off with you. I know you're working. Do you want to divulge who you're working with right now? Okay.
It's not a
No.
big deal.
Okay.
It's not a big deal.
What-
Yeah, just working Web3. That's all. Sorry.
No, you're good. I was wondering. I heard your space with Pio shortly after their I think it was Solana Made Easy was yesterday, and then afterwards you went on with Mr. of NFTs, which was hilarious because they're like, how did you build your following, Mister? And he literally just said, oh, I get a funny picture and I write a funny thing, and that was his insight. But as far as I know, you're talking a little bit about a possible podcast. Do you have any information on that?
No, that was supposed to be like, yes, like we were like trying to hype up that Twitter space because it was like a podcast / Twitter space. It was pretty interesting.
Right.
That's all that was. I don't know. I've been on the fence with podcasts, dude, but it's like, is it worth the effort? That's kind of like, what do you think? Like, because you're on different platforms. Do you think it's worth doing 2 platforms? Or do you think it's worth just like doing 1 platform? Or what's the pros and cons?
I think Twitter's a very interesting platform because it doesn't have a lot of synergies with a lot of other platforms, right? So when you do YouTube, you can take those videos and it's very easy to clip them out and put them on Instagram or Facebook or anything. Twitter makes it hard. Like when you're in Twitter, they make it very hard to like have synergy. So when I post a video link on Twitter, I almost get no clicks on it. Like it's people don't like being strayed away from Twitter, and Twitter doesn't like kind of nudging them away from their platform, whereas a lot of other platforms are pretty friendly and there's a lot of cross-pollination. I would say that, dude, you have great spaces that if you could have an archive of them that like people can use this podcast, my initial thoughts is like there's probably more synergy there than anything else. Like you can just record those spaces and just throw them on a podcast as like the Grill House or something like that, Solana Grill House, and people would listen to them because it's much easier to go on like Apple Podcasts and scroll through like any titles that they think are interesting versus trying to go through your entire timeline. You know what I mean? So I think that would probably be where I would, just as somebody who has done it in the Web2 space to some extent of finding synergies between social media platforms, like that, dude, you could have a huge audience there. I know we need. Like Mark Kolser is great. His podcast is awesome, but you cater to a different audience than he does, right? Like, Solana's still very infantile, but your approach to it is like critical honesty. You know what I mean? Like, there's of course sometimes some of the speakers can get a little out of pocket, but at the end of the day, what you're just trying to add is like, hey, don't give your money to stupid fucking projects. Like, I think that that's such a valuable criticism to have in this space, and you could really capitalize on it to different people outside of Twitter by recording those spaces and adding them on podcasts. So yeah, that honestly, Alex, that would probably be where I'd say that. And then, I mean, I guess you can explore TikTok. I know a few people in NFT TikTok that have done really well, but I don't know if you want to appeal that to that crowd or not.
Yeah, I guess that's that's a really interesting thing. I was just gonna say, Alexander, you just buy like a Zoom recorder and then sit it there when you're doing your spaces and just record the whole thing and then put it up as a podcast. But because the majority of people that you're reaching are on Twitter anyway, but you might pick up like the off straggler on a podcast or on YouTube and stuff. But yeah, dude, like your content's great. Like you should get it out there. But I think your core meat and potatoes is always going to be on Twitter because that's you look at where the attention is for people that are interested in NFTs. It's on Twitter. Like people are there, but you might pick up that guy like that gets him in. Like it's anything is better than nothing, right? Like, but in terms of like if it's worth it for you, the brand deals might be worth it. Like fucking YouTube. That's something Bison guys like I have friends that did like when I was doing my YouTube channel, like I never took those sponsorships. Like, hey, this video is brought to you by Raid Shadow Legends. Things. Those guys fucking make like 10 grand a video. Like if you get to like a few 100,000 subscribers, so it's like it could be worth it. Like exploring a TikTok algorithm is the way that TikTok algorithm works too. Like it rewards content, not the social graph. So it's like an interest graph. It can be pretty valuable. I guess it's worth experimenting.
No, I appreciate the feedback. That's kind of like I've just been asking people that are multi-platformed and like hearing from them. So just like I'm being slow about it because I feel like it's, for me personally, I think it's going to take up so much time. Like I'll end up being like annoying with like 2 platforms. Like just, I don't know. Like just like my personality, I'll like end up like, it might consume me is what I'm worried about. Like I may get like stuck down the YouTube rabbit hole, and then I'll be like, maybe I'll like give up on the like I don't know, like try to like juggle, and I'll end up messing shit up is like kind of what I'm worried about. So like I don't know, and I don't know like what I stand to gain from it. So like maybe just doing what you said, just don't put any effort into it, but just have it there, like create that stream, and maybe people will find it.
Yeah, just stick on an Anchor. Anchor.fm is like the podcasting thing.
Yeah, Anchor's good.
You just put it there, and it goes. Or is it? And then it just goes everywhere. Like you just hook it up to iTunes, Google Podcasts, and Spotify, and then wherever people are searching for these NFT things, like it, like basically what we're transitioning into is like we're transitioning away from Google as like your search discovery mechanism to like social media as the primary search discovery. Like people will now search Reddit first before Google, and people also search YouTube before Google, and people also search TikTok now before Google. I don't know if they search TikTok. I'm not super into TikTok, but like we're transitioning away from this Google search to discover methods to like social media search to discover. And so if you're in there in those ecosystems, it could help to build your brand. And I don't know what your goals are in terms of like monetizing a personal brand, but there's lots of options, right? And but you can always start off with very low hanging fruit, just recording what you're doing now and putting that up there.
Yeah, for sure. Cool. Well, guys, I appreciate all you guys' time. You guys obviously are very busy people, and I really do appreciate all the time you decided to spend with us. Juice, do you have anything else that we want to add before we sign off?
One last thing, Ryan, I'm going to put you on blast here. Do you remember the first time that we spoke when you guys minted out that day? Do you recall that at all?
I don't remember.
It's been a bit. It's been a bit, and it was.
Was it on the space with Alexander?
So you hopped on, and right before you were saying that your wife was giving you flack for doing this and not hanging out. The day you guys minted out, I was at a wedding and hopped on your space just to talk about like what you guys were doing. And during the wedding, they were like cutting the cake, and my wife was pissed. And I said, in the future, we'll bond over our wife's giving us shit for being obsessed with NFTs. And I think today was finally that day.
Oh, dude, we gotta like fucking today. I fucked up the time zone, and I thought it was 2 p.m. Hawaii time, and then I looked. Oh shit, it's like in 20 minutes, and I was like, I was supposed to watch one of my kids when my wife took my other kid to the dentist, and then she was fucking pissed again. So it's never ending. Like, but yeah. So I'll hear it when she gets back. She's not back yet, but I'd say like it's work. This is work for me, which is cool, right? Like, this is now work. Like talking to people that understand NFTs is become work, which is like fucking it doesn't really feel like work. It just feels like hanging out.
Yeah. I can do this shit all day.
Yeah, cool.
I mean, it is one of those
Same
things
here, dog.
Yeah, right. But streaming's interesting because actual edited videos actually do way better. But this is more engaging for me, right? Like recording these conversations. There's a little bit more of like applying and connecting with a smaller audience that are really engaged in this community. And I made better connections in streaming than I have with edited videos, right? So it really is just kind of figuring out the balance. But I do need to get back to edited videos because that was really what was growing the channel. But we find that all out, and I think I applaud you guys for kind of being on the frontier of each of your respective fields, and just trying to try out cool new shit. Like Cyber Samurai Shin, Remnants, the Twitter. Like, dude, your rise to prominence, Alexander, should be like on the history books at some point. When we're all writing this, because you did it in such a crafted way that I think nobody else has really approached it. Like, seriously.
All right, let's not dick ride him too much, dude. The history books, bro, for shit posting.
The history books. I like that. No, I like that. What? Dude, I beheaded every single influencer on my way to there. Are you kidding me, Shake? Dude, they are like decapitated, looking at me
I'm
like
just
trying to scrape back into relevancy. No, I'm just.
Well, he's the people's champ, right? Like that's why he's where he's.
They're waiting, dude. I have them just. Dude, you know what's crazy is like they're just waiting, and they're gonna die waiting. I tweeted out yesterday. I'm like, y'all are gonna die fucking waiting. Look, this is my thing, right? All right, I'm getting on a tangent, but I don't care. I was an advisor for a rug, a hard as fuck rug. That shit did not go under mint once ever. These advisors of these quote unquote influencers are minting out projects and instantly with not even giving anyone a chance is all I'm saying. Like, that's all I'm gonna leave it at that, right? I'm gonna leave it. I can get rugged, literally rugged. These influencers that are claiming themselves to be like amazing ambassadors and advisors and are like stealing from projects, in my opinion. Like, dude, those projects could use that money. Instead, they're like pretty much stealing from the project. But then it goes instantly, you're like, and then they're dipping out and they're just like, thanks for the bag, bozo. Like, dude, I don't know. That's my take on it. I'm gonna leave it at that.
Well said.
Yeah,
Bro.
this is why I can't say anything nice about Alexander. Everybody always thinks I'm like, because of his personality. It's like, hey, you're dick riding there, bozo. Like, what are you doing? And I'm like, I'm trying to like put it in perspective, you motherfuckers. Like, chill. No, so really, I do appreciate all you guys' time. Thank you guys for being on the forefront of kind of growing this space out and doing cool shit. And yeah, I think we'll leave it there. Appreciate you guys' time.
Thanks for having me on, man. Great talking to everybody.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, this
Thank
was
you,
a
everybody.
lot of fun. Thanks everyone tuned in, and thanks for having all.
Thank you.
All
man.
right, see you guys.
Later, boys.
See ya.